Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Hey Ash, how you do? Babu Frick is a Sith. Learn the lore. I'm not perfect on the lore. Maybe he ends up being one, but as far as I know, he's not a Sith. He's just awesome. I do like him though. I do like him quite a bit. All right. So a little bit of backstory real quick as to why I'm doing this stream here. I'm actually looking, I have a little bit of time, and I'm looking to distract myself. I actually broke a tooth. I have an exposed nerve, and it is just pain like crazy. If I keep myself occupied, I don't seem to notice it as much. They couldn't fix it. I did an emergency, tried to get an emergency thing. Anyway, point being is if I'm just sitting and doing nothing, I'm thinking about it, and it hurts like crazy. If I'm doing something that makes me think or is fun and I'm really enveloping myself, I actually feel quite a lot better. That's and on top of that, for another reason, is Jedi Survivor comes out in March. It's already the end of January. Teeth issues of the world. Oh, I know. I didn't know. I would say I didn't know until now that they were as bad as they are. But they are the worst. They hurt. It hurts so bad. And the exposed nerve. It's at the back right molar that's cracked. It hurts. The exposed part of the nerve attaches to the eye and the ear, the jaw, and so I can literally just accidentally have my tongue the wrong way, and then I have a migraine headache. I can't see out of one of my eyes. My ear feels like it's infected, and it's just because that nerve was touched. I tried to get an emergency procedure done, and they couldn't do it, and they can't get me in for a while. And so I'm taking some medication and I'm doing some numbing stuff, but really what I found is on top of that, if I'm doing stuff that makes me not think about it, it doesn't seem to bother me as much, and I thought this might be a fun way to do it. And Star Wars is always a good thing to go to. But also, Jedi Survivor is coming out in March. We're at the end of January. We've got a very short month in February, and then we've got Jedi Survivor coming out in March. And I kind of wanted to re-immerse myself into Star Wars. Now, Thumb made a request for the next retro game that I do to be Rygar, so I will be honoring that. Obviously, if tomorrow is a retro stream, I'll honor that. If it's not a retro stream, then I'll honor it on the next retro stream we do. And then I'll probably jump back into Star Wars for the next series, whether that be continuing on with Jedi Fallen Order, or whether that be doing something else that everybody else kind of wants to see or hear. That's up to you guys. But to jump in, to become more fully immersed, and just kind of get into that. We've got a lot of good stuff coming out in March. They've got Jedi Survivor. We've got the what am I trying to think? Mandalorian season 3 is coming out. So Babu Frick once had a pain in 12 of his teeth all at once. Didn't faze him whatsoever. True. I love Babu Frick. I showed you the trailer. I sent you the trailer for Mando season 3, where we actually see more of his alien species, and we'll learn more about him. I'm excited about that. Viddy, hey, welcome in, Viddy. It's always good to see you. Hello, I'm the doc. Oh wait, this isn't a Doctor Who list. It isn't. I don't know enough about Doctor Who to do a list. Although I will. I have watched some of it. I still don't know enough. I need to go back and watch even more. I kid. By the way, I hope to play Fallen Orders. I hope you do. It's a really great game. If you have an Xbox, it is currently on Game Pass, and I highly recommend downloading it and playing it there. Like I was saying, I'm trying to get immersed and trying to get back into. I'm not ever out of Star Wars, but there's my dives and there's my deep dives. And during my deep dives, it's when I really get enveloped and I'm really excited about everything. And when my normal dives, it's just me reading. Like I read Star Wars all the time. Fun fact: Babu Frick is also a doctor. Technically, he would be. He's kind of the black market doctor of robots, if you think about it. So honestly, not too bad. So you might also notice this is not my permanent thing, but I did decide there's a really cool free Star Wars template out there made by another awesome guy that I happen to hunt down. And so you notice that my intro and all that are Star Wars related, and my music is Star Wars related. It's Samuel Kim music. So if anyone is excited or likes any of this music is actually lo-fi Star Wars, which is really cool if you didn't know. And so this is just for stuff like this. I won't use it all the time. I like my other stuff, and I think it envelops when Anna and I are both in there. But I thought this might be kind of cool. So you have to bear with me, though. This was kind of put together quick, so I'm going to try and do this correctly, and I'm going to probably not, but I'm going to try. If I click here, it's this one, I think, actually. Boop! There we go. Okay, so this one's a little bit better. I hope you guys can see that okay. Can you see it all right? Here, let me, I'm going to move that just a smidge. So you might be able to see it a little bit better. Let's move it down. You don't have to see who's coming up. I'll tell you. That might be a little bit easier, huh? Cool. Yeah, the template's cool. Yeah, it's not mine. I mean, it's something I'm using, and it's something I have permission to use, but I wish I could say it were mine. It is indeed not. I thought it was really neat. The transitions are super cool, too. There's two of them. There's actually a TIE Fighter and an X-Wing, but I tried to kind of mix it up and say, I'm definitely more of a Sith person than a Jedi, for good reason, and they are deep reasons. But I'm not going to... I won't get into that unless there are questions about it, but yeah, actually really cool. So what I wanted to do on this, what I thought might be kind of cool, is to do this is just a Jedi and Sith list. It's a power thing, and so if you can see, I have them ranked F through S, and I have a no reviews one just for any of them that really haven't done anything notable enough for me to think that they are good or bad. And if this is popular, then I can go into additional stuff, deep lore, additional characters, random other lists, and I can talk about like most evil to least evil Sith lords, most good to least good Jedi. Like story, real quick. Does anyone know that there is a such thing as a good Sith lord? there's a story of a Sith Lord called Vectivus. Vectivus didn't actually do anything bad. He was just a businessman who used the dark side of the Force, was a full-fledged Sith, was given a lot of power, didn't die in battle, didn't go and kill people, didn't go do a whole lot of that stuff, and when he died of old age with his family and friends surrounding him. The Sith Lord. Rank as Sith Lord and recognized as Sith Lord. Didn't do anything bad. That was just him. You can do that. You can be a Sith Lord and not necessarily be bad. So, real quick, I've got them all kind of listed out here. I'll highlight what it is, and then of course, if you have questions or suggestions or whatever the case is, just let me know. If you disagree, I'd also like to hear why you might disagree, because I'm always happy to listen to that. So the way I have it here is the traditional, as I said, lettered, and these are all just quotes. So we have unlimited power. I think everybody knows that quote. Impressive, most impressive. I think everybody's much wiser man than I. Qui-Gon Jinn, episode 1. Just a simple man trying to make his way in the universe. Episode 2, Jango Fett. I'm sorry, old friend, Count Dooku. Episode 2. No is a couple of different things, but it's Vader, most notably the episode 3 one. But he also does technically say it in episode 5. I Hate You is also Vader, episode 3, pre-suit Vader, and no reviews is not a quote from anybody, it's just I haven't reviewed them. So I guess I'll jump into the list, and again, if you have anyone that you think you might want to know more about or have questions about, just let me know. I'll start with Aayla Secura. Aayla Secura is, in all honesty, the Clone Wars kind of expanded on her. She's got kind of an interesting story in that she's very passive and very, I guess she's okay, but in my opinion she also has, if you didn't watch the Clone Wars and any of the extended stuff, she also probably has the dumbest death. I don't know, like, she goes to Felucia and she looks around and then like 50 people gun her down and she, like, nothing, like it was no big deal. So Clone Wars bumps her up a tier, but I honestly think she's fairly useless. Yeah. I wouldn't say she's completely useless. I'll put her right there. And again, I don't know. I don't know how much everybody knows. So some of these people I might be saying, you'd be like, "What's their story?" And then I tell you, and you're like, "Oh yeah, put them in F." And I've got them in like A. I don't think that'll probably be the case, but maybe. Who knows? And a couple of these are unknown. So they got 2 of them on here, and I can't quite tell. I'm pretty darn sure I know which one's which, but I can't quite tell because on my screen it's pretty little, I guess. Here, let me see if I can just make a blown up version so you can see it. This is not gonna be fun to watch it in the intermission screen, so let me just try this. We'll just go into, oh my goodness sakes, I can't see it. We'll go into that, and then we will add this, and then we'll go back and add the streaming software behind the scenes. Yeah, you can see what I'm doing. I figured I'd do this real quick so you can see. I do a lot of different stuff. I use OBS. I like OBS. It's easy to use for me. What was I doing? Oh yeah, display capture I think is what I was going to do. Display capture, and I have the 4x3, but I'm going to do monitor 3, boop, like that, and then we'll stretch it like that, and I'll probably just move it over a smidge. We have 52, 48, 44, 46, 45, 45, 46, doesn't matter, that's good. And then we can just doop boop and lock those in, and then let's transition over and see what that looks like. Take studio mode off. Oh yeah, I probably want to put it under though, huh? Boop. Well, I'm being a dummy. We'll try that, huh? How's that? That's not too awful. Cool. I'm gonna go ahead and move this up. There we are. How's that? Yeah, I use OBS for the most part. I like OBS. I've done some videos where I kind of show what I do behind the scenes. I love Star Wars names. It's the only franchise where someone has with a name. That's true, actually. And everyone's like, oh yes, the best Foreskin Blarg, yes, the greatest Jedi of his time. He protects. That's I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that'll do. How's that? Is that okay? Is that okay with you guys there? You can see my thing. I thought the Doctor Who IP had ridiculous. It's really whenever you have a space thing where you can have a whole bunch of, you just make up your own stuff. It's great because you can be anyone. You can have any name. One of my favorite generators for random Star Wars names is your first name. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Your last name, your first name, your favorite actor's last name, and the city or the city, town, or otherwise where you were born. And it would mash those up. And so, for example, for mine, I got Priga Fodum. I won't break all of that down, but I got Priga Fodum for it, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that kind of sounds like it would work. You just mash those things up, and you end up with, okay. Hopefully that's a little bit better. I kind of want to add a background to it. I don't know if I should. Would anyone hate it if I did? Let me see if I can do that real quick, just for funsies. Why not? Yeah, if I ever need to do, if ever, like I said, I want to do videos, actual videos where I show the tech, the stuff that I use, to do all my stuff, but I want to break it up. Like I've done tech streams where I thought, oh, that was cool. But what I actually want to do is where I break it all down and I just do like one on the audio, the equipment that I use, the software that I do, and then I'll have another video and it'll be on, the softwares that I use and how much those cost, things like that, where it's all kind of actually formal. But I haven't done that. It's a lot of work. I've started doing it a couple of times, and it's a lot of work, and I just haven't quite gotten it down yet. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drag over next to it like it's nothing. Try something. It's not quite. What the heck is this aspect ratio? Oh my goodness. All right, and then we will just boop like that. Check that out. See, look at that. Got some nice stars, like we're going real fast. Let's see. Can we make a new tier for Darth Maul? Title is cool, but is he really as cool as people think, or did we just love him when we were kids? It's a long title. Hey, so fun fact, Darth Maul is actually one of the coolest characters there is because of Clone Wars and because of Rebels. If you've not watched the Clone Wars series, seasons 4 through 7, he picks up and becomes really awesome. So I don't want to spoil it necessarily, but I don't think I am. If you've seen Rogue One, like it shows his climb to the beginning of, it shows where he was at the end of episode 1, his fall from sanity, his brother picking him up. I don't watch kid cartoons, sorry. No, that's fair. It's really good. Where's Darth Sam Witwer? Sam Witwer's amazing. Guy knows his Star Wars too. I love that. Yeah, no, it's so good. It shows his fall from sanity, how he survived, what happened, who helped him. You get to meet his brother Savage Opress, who's awesome. It shows his climb to leading a crime syndicate. I mean, how he's awesome, and so very, very cool. I recommend him. 10 out of 10. He's really cool. Now, this is about power, so, one of those things where he may not be as high on that list, and we actually have some evidence for some of that stuff, so. The only Star Wars I've seen are all the main films except for Episode 9, plus Rogue One and Solo, plus some Star Wars game. Yep, that cover it. So, yeah, I mean, that's perfectly okay. My recommendation, if I come to the films, 4, 5, and 6 are amazing. They're really good. 5 is my favorite. 4 followed closely behind. 6 is kind of there. And then 1 through 3, I actually like. Going back, looking at them, I saw them all in theaters, and then going back and looking at them with a critical eye, I really like them. Now, 1's a little bit boring, but it does this really important thing of establishing a political climate, which I think is necessary because you just changed from this republic to an empire. And that doesn't seem feasible unless you have all the things that happened in Episode 1. Episode 2 is fairly useless in my opinion, although we do get one of the coolest characters in Star Wars lore introduced. That's Count Dooku. With movies, he's not uber cool. With all the extra stuff they've written about him now, he's awesome. Episode 3, I think, is amazing. I think it's a piece of art. I think it's the best music in Star Wars. Some of the coolest scenes, one of the best lightsaber fights. Is it perfect? No, but I think it's honestly really top tier. I think 3 is actually, but this is going to get me in trouble. I think 3 is better than Episode 6. I know it's probably going to get me in trouble, but I do. 7, 8, and 9, I'm not keen on. If I have to pick one of the 3, it's 9. 7 is just 4 done over. 8 is everything that fans didn't want put in. 9's not great. It's definitely damage control, but there's some really cool scenes like watching... Well, I don't want to spoil it for you, Viddy, if you haven't seen it yet, but there are some really cool power scenes in there. There's a lot of problems I have with it, but they've got some horror elements put in there, which I think are cool. And they've got some really cool power scenes, and so... Rogue One and Solo are both really good. Rogue One is awesome. Solo's not quite as good, but it's pretty good. Star Wars games, sheesh. Episode 8 and 9 are so good. Hey Thumb, how you doing, man? 8 and 9. Here's my. I like 9 of 7, 8, and 9. I think 9's the best. It's damage control, but I think it's the best because there is some fan service that we haven't seen before. There's also a lot of stuff I hate about it, but of the 3, I would pick it over the others. I'll be the first one to hit the like button. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, I mean, be honest with me. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. At least I know. I did tell them that you recommended Rygar for my next retro game stream, so of course my next retro game stream will be Rygar. I do have it in the collection. But as I was telling them, this is made to be a fun distraction, just something kind of off to the side, so... The second time I watched 8, I really noticed the problems, especially a poor implementation of what the audience knows over the characters or the characters know over the audience. Yeah, well, so the thing about it that I thought was cool, because I don't like it. I'm also lying. The question is, which is true? There's some cool stuff in Episode 8 that I think happens, but there's a whole lot of mess. I don't like Rey. I think Daisy Ridley is great, and I think Rey is a nice character. I just don't think she's a good character. I think she's too perfect and she doesn't really fail and she needs to fail more. And in the end, we find out her biggest failing is just not liking the family she's a part of and being too powerful. That's not a failing. I liked Snoke. I liked watching him ricochet lightning off of the floor to hit Kylo. I liked watching him whack Rey upside the head with her own lightsaber call. I thought that was all great. I thought it's Andy Serkis, and I thought that was amazing. But at the end of it, they just wasted a character. They wasted a story. The whole story is Poe Dameron telling everybody that this lady's bad, only to get shocked and find out that the lady wasn't actually bad. But for whatever reason, she hides all of her motivations, doesn't tell anybody anything. She has a good plan, but she doesn't tell anybody anything. And there's no reason, there's no listening in or anything. It's just a waste of a character. Poe is supposed to be this awesome ace pilot. And in fact, in this, he's just wasted. I don't think there's much incentive to watch episodes 7 through 9. I agree. If you're wanting to watch them, you want to see the complete thing, I agree. Otherwise, just discard them. Don't worry about them. They do some really dirty stuff to Luke. Yeah. Poe's not done well. The best character in 7, 8, and 9 is Kylo Ren, hands down. And he is actually a good character, I think. I think he's a deep character. He's powerful, but he has faults and failings. He doesn't just miraculously overcome them. He's awesome. I think he's the most well-developed character in that series. And I would argue that he's on par with some character developments in the first 2 trilogies. Which is why I actually have his helmet. I'm looking at his helmet right now. I actually have his helmet in my room here. It's really cool. In my retro room here, so... Okay, let me see. I'll jump down here. If you have questions, of course, also, or other opinions, please share them. I'm doing a tier list, but at the same time, like, tell me what you do and you don't like, what you do and you don't know. So I have trouble knowing which one. I'd probably just watch Kylo Ren scenes from that trilogy. I recommend it. Kylo Ren's cool. Crossguard's a dumb thing. I don't like the crossguard saber. Not his fault. But Kylo's good. The thing about a character, if they would have taken Kylo's arc and they would have given those elements to Rey, it would be good. But Rey is too perfect. She's always good. She's always powerful enough to fix the problem. She somehow knows how to use the Force. And Kylo, we know firstly that he comes from a strong bloodline. We know that he's been trained, and we know that he's undergone training from one of the most powerful Jedi in the world. We know that he's got Jedi blood from all different angles, all different ways. And yet he's conflicted. He wants to do things that he feels like further a good cause. He does bad things to do that. He struggles with his mental health. He looks for guidance in places that that can't give it to him. He fails constantly. He doesn't win every fight. He's not a pushover. There's exploitations that are made because of character flaws. He's a good character. And in the end, there's a redemption arc. And when there's I'm not going to say what happens exactly, but that redemption arc isn't perfect either. But it works out. Rey, just a flat line from one to the next to the next. So, that's my opinion. If you disagree, of course, that's perfectly understandable too, but that's just me. Goodness. Okay. I believe this is Adagallia. There are two of this species, and they look very similar. Adagallia died before Episode 3. She was impaled on the horns. So Zabraks, like Darth Maul, have horns, and Darth Maul's horns were actually filed. They were trimmed. It's kind of like a haircut. But when those are not taken care of, they get really long and really sharp. And his brother, Savage Opress, has those really long and sharp horns. And he fights Adagallia, and he impales her on his head spikes. He just jumps and lets his head spikes gouge her into the center torso, and throws her around like a bull, and it kills her. She's very wise, she's very level-headed, and she's actually fighting. It's her and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul and Savage Opress, and that's where she just gets rammed in like a bull. It's a really cool scene, but she's not really all that good at what she's doing. I mean, for back reference, Savage Opress is not a skilled Force user or skilled battle tactician. He's just brutal. She's supposed to be this years-trained Jedi from birth, and she fails pretty drastically. So, I'm also going to put her here. Okay, so this is really little, but this looks like Eth Koth. There are two types of Zabraks. There are two different planets. There used to be a different planet thing, but now there's Iridonian Zabraks. They're usually kind of a goldish, bronzish color. And their horns usually are kind of whiter but rounder. And then now it's Dathomirian Zabraks like Darth Maul. They have sharper horns, and they usually come out in colors like yellow and black or red and black. Dathomirian ones are much, much more dangerous if they survive their trials than Iridonian Zabraks. But ultimately, Eth Koth, also wise, good words, didn't do anything super important. So, again, these guys are all kind of on the same. I don't know. She's probably down here at the end. Not great. All right, now we got the first one that probably someone's familiar with. It's Anakin. This is pre-Vader Anakin, I'm gonna guess. It looks like Episode 3 Anakin. There are two types of Zabraks. I feel like Retro is making up words and sentences up here. Zabraks, you actually spelled Zabraks right. Look at that. That's awesome. No, yeah, I'm not, I promise. This is actual lore stuff. And so, in old lore, Zabraks were... You had the two types of Zabraks. It was just kind of Iridonian was the kind of standard. In the new canon, it's the Clone Wars that actually tells us the difference between a Dathomirian Zabrak and an Iridonian Zabrak. Season 3, I believe. We'll talk about Dathomir and the Night Sisters and all of that. I spelt it correctly? Maybe I'm secretly a Star Wars fanatic. Hey, I hope so, but if not, that's okay too. A lot of people put a C before the K. So it's Zabraks, but you spelled it perfectly. Zabraks are they're bald, horned individuals that are really, really cool. But there are ones that come from Iridonia, and there are ones that come from Dathomir. But season 3, I think, gets into that. It gets into Darth Maul's resurrection and Dathomir and Zabraks and the Night Sisters and all that cool stuff. And there's really cool stuff in that. I can't recommend it enough. If you have Disney Plus or Disney Plus subscription, I would say go in and take a look at it. Start watching the seasons up. If not, they are on DVD. And they're actually, I think they're fairly inexpensive. As a box set, I think they're expensive. I think they're like $80 for the box set. But buying them individually, you can find them on eBay for like $8 to $11 a piece. And there are 7 seasons, so the box set would break down that way. But I would say just a season at a time at $8 to $11, not too bad. The seasons are really good. The short one, I think the shortest one is 6, and it's also probably seasons 1 and season 6 maybe season 1 maybe my least favorite. Just a little more kiddish, and then it starts getting really adult orientated. As you go in, it starts talking about like destabilizations of banks, socio-political and economical distresses being put on different sides. It's very complicated. It's not something you'd look at a kid and be like, hey, do you know why the bank's destabilizing would cause this particular shift? Like, a kid's gonna look at you and go, what does that mean? Anyway, point being, it's cartoon, but it's actually pretty well done. So this is this is Anakin. I think pre-Vader Anakin. This could be this could technically be early Vader Anakin. Either way, same power potential. He actually, as Vader, I'm gonna put him in S tier. As Vader, he actually had the potential to be the most powerful being in the galaxy. There is an episode, I believe it's in season 4 or 5. Again, I'm using Clone Wars as reference because they go in. The thing that Clone Wars did really, really well is it went into details that we had questions about. You know, why is he the chosen one, and what does that really mean? How powerful is the chosen one? There's also Tales of the Jedi, which goes into some detail on Dooku and Ahsoka Tano, and so there's a lot of really cool deep lore stuff being introduced. And in fact, I would argue that the movies are the weakest thing that Star Wars that Disney has done with Star Wars. The comic books are great so far. Several of the books are really good. Some of the Tales of the Jedi are a little slow. I mean, not Tales of the Jedi. High Republic are slow, but most of them are pretty decent. And Andor and Clone Wars and Rebels and Resistance is pretty weak. What's the other one? Bad Batch and the Tales of the Jedi, which I think is the thing that came out. All of those are super strong. They're really good. So, dead serious. You're not gonna. Andor, I didn't think I was gonna like it. Andor's amazing. I actually finished the first season, and it is so good. But anyway, so it shows in one of the seasons of Clone Wars, Anakin actually had he and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka Tano all visit this planet. They pass out. Their ship randomly goes there. No coordinates. They can't communicate with anybody. And what it basically does is they're on the embodiment of the Force, the planet that basically is all things Force. And it's governed by these 3 individuals, the Father, the Son, and the Daughter. I know you thought I was going to say Holy Ghost, but it's not that. Father, the Son, and the Daughter. The Father is the embodiment of balance. The Son is the embodiment of the dark side, voiced by Sam Witwer. And then the Daughter is the embodiment of all things light. And the Father is trying to get Anakin to take his place as the balance in the Force. And so he causes his son and daughter to basically transform into these dangerous beasts and take Obi-Wan and Ahsoka and threaten to kill them or to break them, and says, if you're gonna have to save one of them, I'm gonna make you show. And so basically Anakin pulls all of this power, causing the world itself to spin, and is able to control both the son and the daughter, the embodiment of all things light and all things dark, to release both Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. And so he wasn't just taking a Jedi and a Sith out, he was taking out the literal light and dark sides of the Force himself, which I think is awesome. So, absolutely, I know you saw that fluttering, I got an advert for one of my painting programs. So there that was. But anyway, yeah, he's definitely tip-top, and had he not lost to Obi-Wan because of being cocky, he would have been more than Palpatine could have handled. but he got cocky and he jumped up and he got an arm. He got his one good arm and both of his legs chopped off, and that happened. Are you ranking these by how strong they are? Yeah, I'm putting them according to their power level, based off of. I'm going off of canon and legends as best as I can, mostly canon. But if you have questions or you want to contest something I'm saying, please do. But that's the idea: is how powerful these guys are, and feats and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so Anakin before Vader. The thing about Vader's suit is Vader is actually, well, I guess there is Vader's on the list. I'll get to him and I'll explain. So the next one we have is, I think you guys can see this. Okay, I think you can see how these are. This is Asajj Ventress. She was the apprentice of Dooku while Dooku was apprenticing to Palpatine, and that's actually against the rule of two. So the rule of two is you're only supposed to have a master and an apprentice with Sith. You're not supposed to have any more than that. They, in the old days, in the Darth Bane days, they had a whole bunch of them, and they kept fighting each other, and it was more infighting than it was making anything. Going to be interesting when you get to Mace Windu. Okay, so you know some stuff. You definitely know some stuff. Okay, cool, yeah. That's he's on here, so you'll see it. Asajj was incredibly powerful, and her story is a really good one. But she's basically Dooku's apprentice. She never rises to his rank, and in fact, she even tries an assassination attempt somewhere around season 4, season 5, The Clone Wars. She tries an assassination attempt herself, being a super trained Jedi and Sith both, along with 2 other Night Sisters, and they poison Dooku and blind him, and he beats all 3 of them. We'll get to how awesome Dooku is in a minute, but like, she's not gonna hit that level. But she's pretty great. She does end up flip-flopping from light to dark to light, and the end of her story ends up with her falling in love with another Jedi, and some really cool stuff in that. It's a book. It's a really good book, and I highly recommend it. But she's not gonna be super up there. She's pretty powerful. I'm going between B and C, and they both say a man. But this is for both. I should put Woman. We'll do it. I'll put her in B tier. I am gonna go ahead and change that though. I want to make sure I'm including it. So much wiser. We'll put We'll put whoa. Man, that's not what the quote is, but you know. Nah, that's right. There we are. Do the same thing here. I didn't think about it, but we'll do it. I didn't realize that there were going to be so many females on the list. So I got it. Look at that. I'll put her in B though. She's pretty good. She's pretty powerful. She does lose a lot of fights, but she's pretty darn powerful. Next one is Ahsoka Tano. I don't know why she's got red sabers in this one. There is a brush with the dark side, but it's an unintentional one. Like, she's forced into it. And that's during that whole... There's females in Star Wars? I've never noticed. There are. That's... Oh, now you've got me started. Here it goes. I'll be brief. I hate it when everybody justifies 7, 8, and 9 by saying Rey had to be the strong character they brought in. The strong female lead. There are so many good female characters in Star Wars. And Leia is not... I mean, Leia is great, right? But there are so many other... and again, some of it requires some extended canon stuff. The original trilogy didn't have a ton of females, right? It was really Leia kind of took front and center. But there are characters that have gotten expanded on in books and that are expanded on in new things. For example, Episode 6 had Mon Mothma. And Mon Mothma was the one who was delivering the Many Bothans Died, right? The red-headed lady with the long white cloak at the very end of 6 where they're doing the Death Star run prep. Death Star 2 run prep. And she's awesome. She's an awesome character. She's always been an awesome character. She becomes, in the old one, she becomes the Chancellor of the New Republic. And she's incredibly intelligent. She put her life on the line. And then now when you watch Andor, you see all of the like espionage that she's doing while working in a republic against, or working in the Empire as a representative of her territories. Like, they've always made her awesome. in some way or another, but everybody's just like, nah, she's not there. And then 1, 2, and 3 come out, and there's a ton of great female characters there as well, not just Padme, right? There's just a lot. I think it frustrates me because it's like, oh, we'll raise the powerful female, and it's like, no, there have been some great females in Star Wars, and then the books get even better. Like in the old canon books, Luke Skywalker gets married to the Emperor's Hand, which is a group of Jedi Sith assassins, and he gets married to her, one named Mara Jade, and she's awesome, super powerful, and they have kids, Jason and Jaina. Jason and Jaina are both incredibly powerful. Jason turns to the dark side, becomes Darth Caedus. Jaina eventually ends up taking him out. I mean, there's a whole lot. It's so cool. That's all. None of that's canon anymore, but it was a great arc, and it was like 13 books or something. And Ahsoka's really good. Ahsoka's super good. Asajj Ventress is super good. These are great characters that they've added, a decade ago. Disney bought this franchise 10 years ago, 2013. It's 2023. And in that time, before Rey, because Rey didn't come out until episode 7, which came out in 2015, 2 years later, we had Ahsoka Tano first. Ahsoka Tano came out in 2008. Asajj Ventress came out in 2003. Like, we've had some really good female characters for a while, pre-Disney and pre-Rey. So you got me started, see? Ahsoka Tano is actually super awesome, and she gets more and more awesome the more you watch her. If all you've ever watched is the 2008 movie, she's not great. But you start watching her, she's everything Rey should have been. She starts out young and inexperienced, brash and fiery, scared and bold in the wrong places, and she grows. And if you watch all of the Clone Wars and you watch the Bad Batch and all of that, you start seeing where she grows and she makes mistakes and she apologizes and she faces up and she gets punished for them in some instances, almost like to a parent figure. And she trains to exhaustion in some instances about things, and she fails. Like, she's training against clone troopers swarming her from all ends in one episode, and in one episode of Tales of the Jedi, the newer series. And it shows that she literally trained on that for like a year, and she couldn't get it perfect until like a year later. She was getting knocked out in like 50 seconds, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And then a year later, she finally gets it to where she's able to hang on until the exercise is called. She's everything Rey could have been. And she's so much cooler. She's in Book of Boba Fett. She becomes a mentor. Her own book, Ahsoka, which I think is by E.K. Johnson, is pretty darn good. Shows what she was doing in the interim. Tales of the Jedi shows what she was doing in the interim. And she's not perfect. She's not even perfect when she becomes the mentor. She's just much more collected about making mistakes. She's awesome. But I would also argue, I'd argue she's more powerful than Asajj. But they both end up becoming they're pretty even at the end of things. I don't know that Ahsoka dies. We don't yet know what her end is. We do know that Asajj does die. So, this is Coleman. Darth Sam Jackson is at least A tier or higher. We're gonna talk about that for sure. It's pretty awesome. So this guy right here, a little weird look. This is Coleman Kaj. Coleman Kaj hadn't done anything notable except for he survived Order 66. Not really a lot is known about him. He's not particular. I mean, he's using 2 sabers, so we know he's versed in. Why can I not think of the name of it? Son of a gun. Why can't I think? I was gonna say Dune Mach, but that's the wrong. Dune Mach is the art of getting in your opponent's head while you're fighting, by taunting them. Hold on, I'm gonna put him back down here real quick. I gotta think for a second. What is it? Oh, I think I see him. Is that? Who's the guy I used to? Is that him? Was that him? If you've seen it, he looks kind of like it. Yeah. What is it? Dual blade fencing. It's got a name in Star Wars, and I'm trying to think of what it is. Jarkai dual blade fencing is what it's called. Good lord. I think I didn't know a lightsaber form if it bit me. Jarkai is when you use multiple blades. Usually it's 2 blades, dual blade fencing, Jarkai. It is a difficult skill. Jarkai can be more... It's him in the bottom right. Oh, yep. I know Kiari Mundi, this guy here. Yep. Is that what you called him? I saw this and I kind of thought the same thing, but you know. Anyway, Jarkai. Jarkai is when you use multiple sabers. Generally, it was a two-sabered thing, but there were ones that used more than 2 sabers. Cases in point, obviously, is General Grievous, who could use up to 4. And then there was another one, Kiadi Mundi. Kiadi Mundi. K-I space A-D-I space M-U-N-D-I. Kiadi Mundi. Kiadi Mundi, though. It does. I mean, the phonetics are pretty close. There was another Jedi I was trying to think of. Pong Krell was his name. Same species as Dex from Episode 2. He has 4 arms and he wielded 2 double-bladed lightsabers, which is really, really cool. Season 5 of the Clone Wars, if you want to see that. It's the Umbaran trilogy. I believe it's 3 episodes long. And it's really, really good. That is one of my favorite episodes. That's actually one of the more... That's like a tearjerker episode if you're... I know it sounds crazy that this cartoon, this animatic style can have that, but some of the stories are that good. It's just really good storytelling. And you suspend the disbelief of the cartoon because you're so enveloped in the story. It's really good. I just want the next Star Wars film to introduce a Jedi called John, and no one questions why he has such a normal name. Also, he's just make a Deveronian named John. That's awesome. That would be cool. I would watch that and say, like, that's my favorite character. Deveronians, by the way, they're the aliens that have horns. They look like the devil. Just side note. There's only one scene in the movie canon, and it's the original cut of Episode 4. They are additionally seen in Clone Wars and Bad Batch and Rebels. John the alien. He's the most grotesque looking alien, but his name is John. That would be good. This is like tentacles and eyeballs and suction cups in every possible place, but his name's John. And he carries a briefcase and wears a hat. Who's the bounty hunter with toilet paper all around? Oh, Dengar. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Dengar. Dengar's actually pretty cool. It's not toilet paper. He's roughed himself up, so he's pretty messed up. But his name's Dengar. He's in Episode 5. He's in the ship scene when Vader hires all the bounty hunters, along with IG-88, who's also seen in The Mandalorian, and of course Boba Fett. It's the no disintegrations scene. So, oh, ouch. Yeah, but I'm pretty darn sure that's your thing. D-E-N-G-A-R, Dengar. Anyway, so this is Coleman Kaj. Coleman Kaj, as far as I know, nothing really notable known about him. Survived Order 66, nothing else known about him. So I'm going to put him in no reviews because I don't know. I know he survived, but I don't know how or why, and I don't know what he's doing now. So it's not really a great ability. I can't really view him as anything great. So why does Grievous have 4 lightsabers? So the thing about there's all kinds of different canonical answers or speculations based on the canons. Coleman Kaj sounds cool. A tier. Coleman Kaj is also spelled K-C-A-J. That's going to knock him down to B tier at best. It's a cool name. There's also another Coleman on this. There are a couple of Colemans, but there's another Coleman. Actually, it's the next one. Coleman Trebor is on here too. And I know where I'm putting him right now. I know it. Yeah, you know what? I can't argue with that. Spell it how I spells them how I sees them. Oh shoot, what was I saying? Oh, Grievous has 4 lightsabers. Yes. So Grievous was actually trained by Dooku. Trebor, T-R-E-B-O-R. But yes, that is true. I have to watch the football giant game. I'm glad you're doing a tier list. Take a chance. Yeah, well, hey, I appreciate it. And of course, hey, congratulations. I mean, not congratulations. Good luck to the Giants in that case. Who are the Giants playing? I'm a Saints guy, and they're definitely not in the running. I know that. So, but good luck, obviously, to the Giants. Yeah, good luck to the Giants for sure. Put Trebor in B tier. Decent name, not as powerful a Jedi as Jedi. I'll tell you where Trebor. When I show him to you, you might remember him. Actually, and I'm pretty sure you'll be like, I get it. What was I saying? Oh, yes. So, Grievous was trained by Dooku. Giants are losing 28-7 to the Eagles. God dang the Eagles, you know? They've always got a strong team, but they are just the bane of everybody's existence when it comes to football, except for Philadelphia, of course. I'll lurk for a little while. I'll see the rankings of the Star Wars characters a bit later. No worries. I just appreciate you for being here at all. I mean, thanks for coming. Like I said, I'm taking a chance. Not everybody's going to probably be as interested in this as I am, and if you're not, that's okay too. I just like getting to hang out and share something I enjoy, and if you're here for it, all the better. But yeah, I just appreciate you for being here, so no worries. Good Lord, though, that is Thumb. That is a shutout. I have no idea. What is it? Second or third quarter? I mean, that's if it's fourth, they're gonna have to kick it into high gear to knock that out. They're gonna have. It's not gonna be easy. They've got 3 more touchdowns to make before they're even gonna make a dent in things, and they're gonna have to. It's gonna be crazy. But I mean, I'm gonna say best of luck to them because I'm not an Eagles fan at all. Good Lord, every time I'm doing it, I get sidetracked. I'm so sorry. Grievous was trained by Dooku. Dooku is... I'll get to Dooku in a minute, but Dooku's, we'll just say, a good trainer. But because Grievous is mechanical, he doesn't have the ability to feel the Force like a Force wielder would. Darth Christopher Lee, S tier. He's pretty cool. So because he can't feel the Force, he doesn't have the ability to anticipate apart from just looking at telegraphed sabers. He didn't really have the ability to feel. Like the idea is that when a Jedi is doing their moves and they're getting everything shifted and whatever, they're actually using the Force to sense just ahead of time what that move is going to be. Grievous couldn't do that because he wasn't. He was mostly mechanical, and so because he couldn't feel the Force because he was mostly mechanical, he ends up having to overwhelm his opponent. So he decided to carry 4 lightsabers to try and overwhelm him. And you can see quickly that Obi-Wan, who's Force trained, is able to dispatch of him fairly quickly. Now, the fight against Grievous is tough because Grievous is still magnetic. He's heavy because he's robotic. He's strong. And he's actually, the history of Grievous is he's actually a really beastly warrior. So, like, he's not an easy target, but he's not going to be as good at lightsaber fighting as Obi-Wan would be. I want to do this tier list stuff with Mortal Kombat. Heck yeah, you should. It's not hard to do at all. Like, this is not I didn't make this list. It was already made. I would like to make one with characters that I'm still learning, but this was already there, and I thought it was neat, and why not? The real reason for Grievous's existence, we want a cool toy. Yeah. And fun fact, Grievous was actually designed off of the head of a spray bottle. That was where the artist got the character design idea. But you're exactly right. That's what ended up happening. Although I do think Grievous is a really cool character. Season 5, Grievous does some really awesome stuff. They send him hunting after the Night Sisters. You learn about the Night Sisters and how powerful they are in the dark side of the Force. And Grievous is, I say guns blazing, but Grievous is a beast. I mean, he literally just storms the planet and does what he wants. And it's awesome. He's not on this list, so I don't mind giving a little extra on that, so. Alright, next one down here. This is Coleman Trebor. Sorry, did you see my little... Oh, you didn't. It's almost out. Oh, that's good, actually. This is Coleman Trebor. Coleman Trebor's F tier. Period. Coleman Trebor is useless. If you're not familiar with who Coleman Trebor was actually on the Jedi Council. He's the alien you see in Episode 2 when the Geonosian... when the Battle of Geonosis is starting, and all the Jedi start dropping into that arena with all the Geonosians, and he drops on the balcony where a lot of hate for Trevor. Oh, I'm about to explain why, because I think when I say it, you'll sympathize. He's the alien Jedi that jumped into the Battle of Geonosis, jumps up on the platform where Dooku and Jango are, and Jango pulls out his gun. Jango uses... He's an Old West style. He uses 2 Westar 34 revolving blasters, or revolver-style blasters, right? Pulls it out, shoots twice. Coleman deflects 2. The third shot lands squarely in Coleman's torso, as do shots 4 and 5, and he falls from the balcony to his death. That's Coleman Trebor. Jedi Master. Throw him in. He is. Episode 2, The Battle of Geonosis. If you watch, it's the one that Jango shoots from the balcony. Dooku could have pulled his... If Dooku would have pulled his saber out and beat him, I would have given him an E or a D, because Dooku's pretty great. But he didn't. He was felled by a quick gunshot. It's really frustrating. F tier. I don't like Coleman Trevor. He's a worthless Jedi. He should have been... Worthless Jedi in the old canon, I don't know if it's the still canon, but in the old canon, in Legends, if you were a Jedi who wasn't... and Obi-Wan fell in this category. If you were a Jedi who wasn't really all that... didn't have that much potential, they would put you in the agricultural corps. You would just go grow crops for them. And that was literally what you would do, because they didn't want to let you go because you had force sensitivity and could become dangerous, but they didn't want you to actually do anything. Well, the ginger lad from Fallen Order being here, he's cool. Yeah, Cal's in here. He's down here at the bottom. Oh, Grievous is in here. Son of a... That's not fair. I'll put him up there, but I didn't realize he was there. He's not a Jedi. I guess they put all lightsaber users in there. This is Darth Bane down here. Darth Bane, and this is him with his armor on, and that armor, by the way, is not armor. It is a series of parasites that feed on the Force, and Bane was powerful with it. Upside is it became a near unbreakable armor, including lightsaber resistant. Downside is they are parasites, so they were draining his life force rapidly. There's a trilogy of books by Drew Karpyshyn called the Darth Bane trilogy, and they tell everything about Darth Bane. Darth Bane was beastly. He is the inventor of the Rule of Two. He learned from some of the most powerful Sith of his time. He overthrew his entire... the entire Sith Academy, which was hundreds of people. All is Finn here. My favorite lines are Rey. Also, okay. So I don't think maybe Finn's in here. I don't know. I haven't seen all the way down. But Finn is basically a sweat, breathe at the camera, and shout Rey machine. You're right. Finn could have been a cool character too. Instead of making him sanitation, what if they made... I'm just saying this here, but what if they made him an actual stormtrooper, frontline stormtrooper, who ends up with PTSD, and he's rebelling, but his major complaint is he's PTSD'd. He's got post-traumatic stress disorder from all of the stuff he's gone in, and so sometimes he has these bouts where he's eager to rebel, and he's, real... bad and awesome and wants to take out the bad guys, but the PTSD stops him sometimes. Like, why not do something like that? But instead he ends up being useless. He didn't really see battle until episode 7. He saw a little bit of battle when Kylo did that thing at the beginning. And then it was, okay, no, I'm fine, we're done. I was in sanitation, I cleaned things. Could have been a cool character. Wasted. Finn went from a stormtrooper turned Jedi to being 2 seconds and a semi away from sniffing. You're right. And it's like, again, soldier, PTSD, awesome skill sets, gets mental issues get in the way from battle. That's a dynamic character with a fault and a failing, and it could be cool. And they didn't do it. They were like, nah. I don't know why they didn't do it, but yeah, I hate it. I think it's a waste of things. Poe Dameron's the same way though. I mean, they made him kind of cool, and then in episode 8 he's awful. Also in English, extra superiority points. Yeah. It's John Boyega. John Boyega is cool. Again, I have nothing against, just side notes. I have nothing against the actors. I don't dislike Daisy Ridley. I don't dislike John Boyega. I don't dislike Poe. Who's the guy that plays Poe? What's his name? I can't think of it right now. Oscar Isaacs, there we go. Who plays Apocalypse in X-Men, who plays Moon Knight. Like, Oscar Isaacs is a phenomenal actor. Daisy Ridley could be a great actor. I haven't seen her in anything else. John Boyega could be. Yeah, Oscar Isaac. They're great actors. It's just the writing he was also in Dune. That's right, you're right. I haven't seen Dune still yet, but I do know he was in it. I've seen the old Dune. I've seen the old one. I've read the books. I've just not seen the new one yet. I actually have a Dune deck of cards, thanks to my in-laws, actually. It was really cool. Good deck of cards, too. Really, really nice. They're great actors and actresses. It's just the writing was so bad that I can't excuse the action. By the way, I turned the music up just a smidge. Can you guys still hear me and the music okay, or do I need to turn it back down again? I just thought it might be a little too quiet for when I have to take a moment to think what I'm saying. I didn't want it to be like just dead air. Sounds like it could be a Star Wars character. It does. Audio's all good. Okay, thank you. It could, honestly, it could be. Dune Mach is a thing. Dune Mach is a combat tactic wherein you mock or make your... when Dooku's fighting against Obi-Wan and Anakin, and he says, "Surely you can do better." That's Dune Mach. He's trying to get inside their head, get them frustrated, make them make mistakes. And he does. In episode 2, he rightly takes them out in like 5 minutes. Okay, Darth Bane, though. Darth Bane is awesome. Darth Bane is the inventor of the Rule of Two, one of the most powerful. He learned essence transfer, which is a way to take your soul and basically put it into somebody else's body and force their soul into a submission and death so that you can live eternally. He learns that. He does fail in the end. He tries to do it to his apprentice, Darth Reign. He starts to get old, and he develops a tremble in his hands, and he has an apprentice named Darth Reign. He tries to take her over, and he fails to get it, but just barely, and she lives the rest of her life with that tremor that he had in his hand, because he got like 10% of himself in there. Why aren't there lightsaber nunchucks? I know why. No Jedi is smart enough to use them without hurting themselves, besides Jedi John. Loving the lore here, by the way. I'm glad. It's just fun. I just get to come and talk and answer questions, ask questions. It's all for fun. I love Star Wars, and I'm always in a Star Wars mood, but I don't know that everybody else is, and so, it's just something I get to do on occasion if you guys will permit it, and I appreciate you for being so patient and awesome about it with me. Lightsaber nunchucks, I think, may have been a thing in one of the old comics, but as a general rule, I don't think they are. You love Star Wars? Wow, you learn something new every day. Well, you knew that, but I understand. I can hear the tone of your voice in your typing. Darth Bane also used a curved-handled lightsaber like Dooku, except for his had a really nice grip at the base for each of his fingers, and he was very, very talented as a saber duelist. Good lord. So much so that they used to battle, and this is in the first book. He used to battle, and there was a battle master, and what they would do in the Sith Academy is, instead of battling with lightsabers, they would battle with poisoned blades. The poisoned blade would cause numbness, complete uselessness of the thing that it nicked. So if it nicked your arm would go Fightus, the most powerful warriors in the galaxy. Saber Fightus, dun 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 dun. I was gonna say fighter and duelist, and I screwed up and made a really bad portmanteau. Seeing it on the screen makes it even funnier, though. I don't know why. It just does to me. God dang it. They fought with poisoned blades, this poison that came from beetles native to the planet that they were on. At that time, the planet was called Korriban. Saber Fightus does sound like something that... Yeah. I'll send Saber Fightus this time. They won't escape me. And then of course, it does the same thing it always has to do, is beats the Rangers down, then they have to go to Megazord, and, But I like Power Rangers. Anyway, they're on Korriban. They have these beetles. The beetles have venom. The venom, that voice had a hint of Joker in it. I wish I could get a good Joker voice. I'd love to. Mark Hamill Joker specifically. I'd love to do. I love doing voices, though. I did a voice on my last video. It's just an older, generic old man voice. And somebody was like, "You should do voices," and I'm like, I would love to break into that, but they just don't. They don't look for no names. You gotta have in order to get in the business, you have to have already been in the business, and that's kind of a backwards thing. So, a little bit disappointing, but you know what? I enjoy doing it anyway. Korriban, Sith planet. Beetles are poisonous. They take the beetles, they take the venom from it, they put it on the sword. Sword nicks you, even just a little bit, and all of a sudden that limb becomes numb and useless. And that's how the fights would go, and it simulates the way that a lightsaber would chop off your limbs, but instead you would just go numb for, half hour, an hour, or something like that. And Bane actually was able to beat the Battle Master at that, which was really impressive. My favorite part of the stream is Retro trying to explain some lore, being interrupted by my dumb comments every 2.5 seconds and then finding his way back to the point he's made. Don't worry about it. I love it. I love it. It's it's me trying to stay on topic so I don't make this 4.5 hours long. But at the same time, I love it. Don't worry about it. Interrupt away. It's only fun if you guys are talking. Well, it's fun in general, but it's more fun if you guys are talking back with me. So, any which way, Darth Bane is an S tier, undoubtedly one of the most powerful, and his teachers were super S tier too. Like he learned a lot of it from from holocrons of Darth Revan, and Darth Revan is one of the most powerful Sith lords to have ever lived. So he comes from KOTOR. Very, very cool. This guy down here is an Umbaran Sith, but I don't know who he is. I don't know that I've actually seen him in the canon at all. So I'm not sure if this is some fan character or something, but it's an Umbaran that as far as I'm aware, the Umbaran that carried this shield did not use a lightsaber, but instead used a spear, and it wasn't a lightsaber spear. So unless I'm just not familiar with who that is, I'm not going to say I review it. This just looks like might have been an edited picture of an already existing Umbaran. The only other Umbaran that I can think of that wields this right here does not wield a shield, and he is the Grand Inquisitor. And the Grand Inquisitor is awesome. But the Grand Inquisitor does use a double-bladed lightsaber with rotation, the circular rotation thing in the middle. This doesn't look like him, so as far as I know, I don't know who this is. If this were the Grand Inquisitor, I'd definitely put him up on the list, but I don't think it is. Do you also think Kylo Ren's mask looks like Darth Revan's? Kind of. I think that Kylo's is designed to invoke more of a Darth Vader feel, because Kylo is shown to really like who's that dork with the blue lightsaber next to Samuel Windu? That's Luke. That's young Luke from episode 4. Fun fact, in that picture, the pair of pants that he's wearing are Levi jeans that are bleach washed white, and the back pockets are ripped off, and that's all. That's the only difference. Oh, I know. Oh, fair enough. I saw that and I was like, I don't. On my screen, it's really small, so I didn't know if you could see it. So, let me see. Well, let me answer the question. Kylo Ren's. Oh, so I think it's more made to evoke Darth Vader feel, but to be unique, because Kylo hides behind his mask. Vader was required to wear the mask because that's how he lived and he breathed. But Kylo hides behind the mask. It's his insecurities in living up to his grandfather's shadow, basically living up to his grandfather's name. Revan's mask is actually a Mandalorian mask that he captured from a crusade where the Mandalorians had been slaughtered, essentially. And he picks up the mask and he wears it almost mockingly. It's modified, but he wears it almost mockingly because he was taking... Mandalorians used to be just about conquest, and he prevented them. He defies the Jedi Council to go out and prevent them from conquesting, and he takes the leader's mask and hides it. And if without the leader's mask, no one can be the leader. So they fight each other to try to find other ways to dominate, and they kill each other a lot. And Revan ends up wearing one of their masks almost mockingly. It's of a female disenfranchised Mandalorian that he sympathized with. Blue Milk Luke is more powerful than all the Darths, I reckon. I hate the fact... So I'm not going to get super technical here, but I gotta get a little one. That's green milk that he was drinking in episode... Blue milk is from episode 4. Green milk is what he was drinking, which is from episode 8. Ooh. Technical. I'm picking on you. No, Luke, so in the original canon, you make a great point. Luke in the original canon is so awesome. He's so cool. Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy, those games actually show who he was, but there are a lot of books. He marries a Sith Lord who changes into a Jedi. They teach an entire academy on the planet Yavin, the one where it gets the planet that they're basically hiding on before the base of operations before they go and take the Death Star out, is a dark side planet. He actually builds a temple on top of it. He teaches Kyle Katarn, Kip Duron, Koron Horn, some of the great Jaden Korr, some of the most powerful Jedi Knights. He has some of the most powerful Jedi children, including Ben Skywalker, and of course he trains Jason and Jaina and Anakin Solo, who are born of Leia and Han, who are married. I mean, he's awesome. They go to planets and they do these others. The Killick trilogy, which is amazing, which is just the Joiner King and it's all good. And he's hopeful, and he has bad things happen to him. He loses his son. He loses his son in battle, and he loses another son to the dark side, and he doesn't ever give up. He loses his wife. He loses Mara Jade in the end. And he doesn't give up. He's that kind of strong. Force-wise, he's moving black holes. Lightsaber-wise, he's one of the most impressive combatants in their era. Now, he wouldn't have stood up to anyone. Like, he wouldn't have been able to stand to Darth. He wouldn't have been able to stand to Count Dooku or a Darth Sidious, and he certainly wouldn't have been able to take out like a Tulak Horde. Tulak Horde being the greatest lightsaber duelist that has ever existed. But anyway, I like when he turned. Yeah, I agree. The old Luke is definitely a lot better than the new Luke. Kip Duron, Koron Horn. Okay, now he's just making... No, they're actual Jedi, and they're really cool. Koron Horn is known to have a throaty voice, they say, a very kind of raspy, and Kip Duron's really cool. I actually will show you, at some point in time I'll do a live stream. I have a book with pictures of the original characters and descriptions and such that are... It was before the canon changed. I'm so glad I have them. I bought them way back when. And now that the canon's changed, those characters don't exist anymore. Mara Jade is a cool name. Yeah, Mara Jade, eventually Mara Jade Skywalker, but it's a super cool name. She's a purple lightsaber. Really, really cool. So who's legit the most when it comes to actual combat and skills? So it depends. I don't think that the ones that are the biggest, baddest are going to be on this list, or otherwise we'd be here all day. It really, really depends. And I know that sounds like a cop-out. Darth Revan, when it comes to Force skills, there are 3 names that come to mind when it comes to the Force. Darth Revan, Lord Valkorion, and Darth Sidious. Darth Sidious in both canons has been marketed as the most powerful, but he didn't know some of the skills that these other guys knew, which I think would have helped out-devious him. Darth Revan and Lord Valkorion, or before that known as Darth... Vitiate, were literally eternal. They would fight, Darth Sidious being Palpatine. Yes, yeah. So Darth Vitiate was this brutal Sith Lord. He was the Lord of all Sith for a long time. And Darth Revan goes out to the unknown regions to find him. Vitiate, Vitiate, I think is how you spell it. Vitiate. I see what you did there. So Revan goes out to find him in these unknown reaches because he is just super powerful. Well, as Vitiate deteriorates, he body hops, uses essence transfer. My ears usually work. It's also a lot of weird names, so like I'm not going to blame your hearing at all. I think it's a lot of weird names. So Vitiate is just running the galaxy from behind the scenes. He's doing this, and he's great, Iron Fist, all this good stuff. And Revan goes to take him down because Revan turns from the dark to the light, marries Bastila Shan, and they have kids. They have 2 kids, a Force-sensitive lady, a girl, and a not Force-sensitive boy. And just because you're not going to be Force-sensitive, just because your parents are Force-sensitive doesn't mean you get it. It's not an inherited trait. It's a galaxy kind of thing. And anyway, so Revan leaves Bastila and the kids and goes to find this to try to protect them, and he gets stuck. Vitiate traps him. And he traps him for 300 years, and they live that long. Vitiate transfers his essence into another body of a guy named Valkorion, and he's just awesome. If you've not seen it, you want to see Valkorion, go look up on YouTube. It's about a half-hour long, but go look up all of the cutscenes from SWTOR, S-W-T-O-R, and you'll see them. They're super high quality. They're 4K. They look like they could be real. They're just barely hitting that uncanny valley of CGI versus real life. And you get to see how awesome they are. Revan was so powerful that not only is he escapes 300 years later, but he splits himself in 2, or he gets split in 2. The light side of him is a Force ghost, and the dark side of him is his physical body, and they both exist at the same time. And they're both trying to help overthrow. One of them wants to kill, one of them wants to prevent, but he's literally powerful enough to embody the full force of himself in 2 different forms at the same time. It's really awesome. Armadillo Black. He becomes a really cool espionage agent. There's a book about it called Annihilation. Not canon anymore, but it's really, really good. Star Wars Annihilation, it's the Old Republic. There are 3 Old Republic books in that vein. One is called Annihilation, one is called Deceived, and the other, there's one more and I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's there. So, any which way, he's really cool. He's still cool. He's just not Force sensitive. I think you might know as much about Star Wars as I do Mortal Kombat. Impressive. Most impressive. I don't know. I mean, I know you know a ton about Mortal Kombat, so I'm not going to put myself up on your level, but I have been reading Star Wars and studying Star Wars and watching Star Wars for over 30 years now, so, I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, so I've picked up a thing or two. A lot of fun, though. So here's Darth Maul. And I'm going to assume this encompasses all of Darth Maul. Darth Maul, if I just took him at episode 1, he'd probably be a B or C. But knowing what I know about him in Rogue One, knowing what I know about him in the Clone Wars, knowing what I know about him in Rebels, knowing how he goes out, he's so much better and so much more cruel. You literally know more about Star Wars than anyone I've seen. Well, I appreciate that. I really enjoy it. It's just a lot of fun. It's a great story. And I like knowing good stories. I think that's what it is. I hope your next son is called Darth Ash. Makes your 2 favorite things in the world, of course. I mean, that's actually kind of an awesome Sith name when you think about it. Honestly, that really is pretty epic. Ow. That was my ring finger getting smashed by the table. I apologize for the noise. Darth Maul is so much more epic. He goes from death to revival to conspiracy to training to rising the ranks of criminal mob bosses to brutal dictator to overthrowing the Mandalorians to leading the Mandalorians, the Death Watch specifically. He murders Obi-Wan Kenobi's love in front of Obi-Wan Kenobi and breaks Obi-Wan Kenobi for a while. He battles the most powerful Jedi of the time and survives, and in some cases outright wins. He trains his brother to become a dark side wielder. His brother dies. He still survives. He grows up and grows older, and he's still a very awesome lightsaber duelist. He tries to train Ezra Bridger. He helps them find unbridled knowledge from the combination of Jedi Sith holocrons. I mean, he is epic now. There's so much story about him, and the backstory about how he was trained. He was locked in a room with droids that were programmed on kill, and he either died or he survived, and of course he survived, you know? So just such an epic guy. Not the most powerful, but really powerful. Speaking of Star Wars, the most disappointing thing to me was casting the guys from the raid in episode 7. They're literally just in a hallway scene, no action at all. I wanted them to be the Knights of Ren. Yeah, I know. I think the Knights of Ren were completely wasted, too. In Episode 9, you see them, and you have no idea. You have no idea what their purpose was. The entire time, you're hoping to see them all have a skill set and go into that. And they don't. They're completely wasted. I completely agree with you. The Knights of Ren looked great, and they were just wasted. I really was disappointed about that. Yeah, exactly. I remember when hearing about the Knights of Ren and seeing them all, I thought that'd be really cool. And I thought it'd be really cool if they did the Power Rangers thing, where they each were like weapon specialists of one weapon, and you kind of could see them. And they were, they rivaled Jedi and Sith, even if they didn't themselves use lightsabers. And Kylo would help them, but it was wasted. Running theme for the latest show. Absolutely. There are a couple of good music themes. There are a couple of great planets, and there are a couple of good moments. Episode 9, the Palpatine thing. I don't want to spoil it if Vidi's still on here, but there's a scene that has a really cool thing happen. How much time is there between episodes 3 and 4? I think it's 17 years, I believe. I believe it's 17 years, yeah. Could they do episode 10, 12? Could they do episode 10 through 12 be that time frame? I mean, they could. I think they're talking about retconning 7, 8, and 9. I would love them to do Old Republic. I would love them to go back and do KOTOR, recanonize. Revan is now canon, Bane is now canon, but they're canon in a different way than they used to be. I'd love to have more exposition on this. There are some great Sith and Jedi from back in that time. You've got Darth Revan and Darth Malak, of course, which are awesome. You have Darth Vitiate, but you also have Darth Malgus. Darth Malgus was a beast. He's a couple of hundred years after Revan and them are dead. Or Revan disappears, not dead, but disappears. It's like 300, 400 years later. And Malgus is a beast. He's 6'6". He's able to take bombs to the face, a mountain to the head, and he just keeps coming. It's not just about being strong in the Force and a strong lightsaber combatant. He is a beast. Like, he goes toe to toe with these muscular soldiers, and he's no weapons whatsoever, and he's just beating the heck out of them. I love Malgus. He's so cool. I want more mainline movies without Rey and all that. It would be cool. I think they've really screwed Luke over. I would love to see Episode 10 be Luke opening the Academy again and all that if we were going to go that route. I don't think they will. I think they're going to say Skywalker Saga closed, maybe retcon 7, 8, and 9, but I think they're going to try and move to other timelines, which I would be okay with. Old Republic, if they can make it good. I want more full movies. There are years and years and years before Luke and all that. Me too. That's where I am. 6'6", takes bombs to the face, keeps... yeah, okay. Okay, I was like, yeah, no, he's a beast. Again, I can't recommend it enough. Go to YouTube and look up the SWTOR cutscenes. They are so good, and they're not. Don't look up every cutscene in the game because you literally are going to be there for like, I think it's like 26 hours of cutscenes. I'm just talking about the cinematic trailer style cutscenes they made. It's about a half hour's worth of them, and they are so good. The music is great, the animation's great, the voice acting is great. You get to watch Malgus storm the Jedi Temple. You see him and a group of Sith literally crash a ship into the Jedi Temple and just wreck shop. You know who looks cool? The new guy in Jedi Survivor. I agree. I want to know who that is. I want to know what's going on there. I have some speculation, but I want to know who that is. I'm excited to see where Survivor goes. Honestly, I really want... I never can remember his name, but the guy that you fight, the dual lightsaber guy with the white hair, the guy that's originally considered the Stranger, I want him to come back, because I really thought he was cool. What was I doing? Oh, yes. Darth Maul. Darth Maul. Powerful. Actually super intelligent, vengeful, does lose his share of fights, but definitely wins more. I'm going to put him in A. Now, I know technically he does lose to Ahsoka Tano in the end, but I don't believe that's because Ahsoka was a superior fighter. I believe he got cocky, and she had reinforcements, and that's what caused him to make an issue. I think if it had been fair and he hadn't gotten cocky, I think he would have taken her down no problem. So, Darth Vader. This is post-fight Vader. Vader is awesome. Vader is powerful. Rogue One shows him as powerful. We see him crush all kinds of just rebel resistances, no problem. But if we go into extended canon, specifically the Vader books and the Vader comic, we know that the suit severely hindered his ability. Him being more robotic than man hindered his full potential in the Force. His mobility was hindered in many instances because of it. And we know that Palpatine intentionally put him in obsolete and uncomfortable armor to make him angry and in pain so that he would be more powerful in the dark side. And we know that his full potential couldn't be unlocked because of that. He could have used Force Lightning, but if he ran the risk of shocking his own rebreather pack, then he couldn't use Force Lightning. He was intentionally stifled so that he could be powerful, but not as powerful as Palpatine. And Palpatine was actually really frustrated. It's part of it was him saying he was upset, that he was angry at Vader because he wanted Vader to be his full potential and potentially run him out, and Vader was stifled. So part of it was his revenge on Vader, like, no, I'm going to go ahead and take you out and make you suffer. Vader is definitely A tier. Whoa. Sorry. And he's definitely more powerful than Maul. So. Okay. This is Depu Balaba. Depu Balaba Not a lot is known about her, but she was Kanan Jarrus's teacher. She was a good lightsaber duelist. She was level-headed. She was a great tactician, but she's not. They don't give a whole bunch of in-depth. And then we know that she was eventually captured, entombed, put in some sort of a coffin in a ship, and she just rotted to death there. We see that in the Clone Wars again. Maybe season 7. Maybe season 7. I can't remember on that one. So she's great. But she's not. She was captured and dies a really slow, odd death. I would definitely put her in C tier. Dooku. Somebody asked me the other day. This has been fun, man. I gotta head out. I didn't realize it was almost 4. Oh yeah, that's right. I understand. You're streaming tomorrow. That's the plan. If everything goes well, yeah, I should be. I don't know what kind of stream it'll be just yet. If it's Anna and I, it might be a random game stream for the fun of it. If it's not Anna and I, just depending on what she wants to do on her channel, then I'll be doing Rygar tomorrow. So, but yeah, we should be, if everything goes well, should be, yeah. No, I appreciate you for hanging with me as long as you have. I hope you had some fun. If you decide you want to go back and watch the tier list, or if not, I can always just send you a picture of what it ends up being. It's just for the fun of it. But I appreciate you for being here and conversing with me, man. It's been a lot of fun. So Dooku, my brother actually asked me, he's like, what's Dooku's first name? Dooku's from Serennos, so Serenians only have a name and a title if they have a title. So his first name is Dooku, and his title is Count. There is no last name. It's just Dooku. I'll stop by. I really enjoy this. I'll watch the rest tomorrow. Have a good night. Hey, you too, man. Have a good night. Sorry for keeping you up so long. And like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. It's just something to do for fun. I thought, all hail Jedi John. I'm gonna draw a Jedi John. I have to show you at some point in time. I do art. I'll have to show you sometime. I'll have to do some art of that. I say I do art. What I do is scribble. Art is not what I do, but I do like to draw. I have to draw a picture of him and then be like, hey, here we go. I would do it though. He just looks at the most grotesque looking alien, but super practical. Nice hat, little tie, a little briefcase, lightsaber in it. You know. Dooku is actually incredibly cool. He was really throwaway as far as the movies went, and then they add him into the Clone Wars, and he's in every season, and he's more and more cool. Master tactician, incredibly powerful in the Force, incredibly brutal, and he's on record in both canons as being one of the most impressive lightsaber duelists in the galaxy. Oh, by the way, Ash, I don't know if you're still here. If you're not, that's okay. I'll answer this anyway. You asked about the strongest, and I gave you the strongest when it came to the Force. Lightsaber duelists would be Sidious, Dooku, and if we really want to go back and find the strongest lightsaber duelist of all time, one that really does take them all out, it would be a guy by the name of Tulak Hord. Tulak Hord was the best lightsaber duelist that ever existed. And he's way back, like 4,000, 5,000 years before Episode 1, that era. Maybe even longer than that. But Dooku is actually one of the best lightsaber duelists out there. He used a curved hilt. He used Form 2, which is called Makashi. Makashi was a sophisticated form for lightsaber-to-lightsaber combat. And it was considered to be a sophisticated form, but an old and dead form. And a lot of Jedi didn't like it because it was made for lightsaber-to-lightsaber, and the Sith weren't around, so they were assuming that he was training to fight them. But he really just thought it was kind of a gentleman's thing. He learned it really well, carried a blue lightsaber with a curved hilt, and then he just took that same sophistication and expertise to the red hilt and practiced like crazy. There was no one, even though Palpatine was technically a master of all 7 forms, there was technically no lightsaber duelist better at Form 2 than Dooku, and that does include Palpatine. Palpatine would have to use another lightsaber form to counteract Dooku, but feasibly, Dooku could stand with just lightsaber to lightsaber, could stand to take Palpatine on head to head, and could potentially win in just a lightsaber. Now, when it came to Force powers, he would have gotten stomped, but saber-wise, he was really, really talented, and he also was one of the only Sith not to have Sith eyes, which are the red glowy eyes, because, and there are a lot of speculations, but because most of what he was doing wasn't for the sake of evil. It was for the sake of furthering the goal of what he was actually trying to do, was further a goal of security, so social securities, so to speak. And it's believed that all the things that he did, he believed, he understood to be evil, but he didn't do them for the sake of being evil and delving into the dark side, as much as he did for the sake of furthering his goal of creating about what he believed would be a balance. Dooku is actually one of my favorites. I really like Count Dooku. I would put him in A tier. He wasn't on Vader's level, but he was more powerful and a better fighter than Maul. And if we took Maul was a master of Form 7, which is Juyo, the most aggressive form. Put him up against Dooku. Dooku would win. Moderation. Makashi was a form in moderation, so he would have used very smooth blocks and parries and defensive techniques, and then Juyo would inevitably tire you out after a certain period of time. And so he would have been able to hold it until he found a weak spot. And the minute he messed up, Dooku would easily come in with a very precise strike or stab and take Maul out. So Maul's great, not as good not as powerful as Dooku. He also couldn't use Force Lightning, whereas Dooku could, which is really impressive. Also, fun fact, the Yoda thing where you see him catching lightning in episodes 2 and 3 is also named, it's called Tuta Minis. It's the absorption and redirection of energies. So, I don't know. I don't know who this is. I can't tell. It looks like a female Zabrak, but I can't quite tell. It could also very well just be Eth Koth, but I don't know. I'm not sure. So I'm gonna put them right here. If it's Eth Koth, I know about him. If it's not, then I don't, probably. So I'm gonna put them right there for now. There were a couple of Zabraks on the council. There were specifically two. There was Eth Koth, and then when Eth Koth was killed, it was Agen Kolar. And Eth Koth, I do believe, used a green lightsaber, but I can't tell if this is him or not. So I'm gonna leave him there for just now. And then I might decide if I don't see anyone else. If I don't see Eth Koth on here, I'll be like, it's Eth Koth, and I'll put him somewhere else. But this is Evan Peel. Evan Peel was awesome. Evan Peel was very non-complacent, very trudge forward. Took his battles, took his bruises. He could be captured and beaten, wouldn't say anything. And in fact, he was imprisoned, and it was on the rescue mission where they put him on this, what was supposed to be an impregnable prison, and specifically designed to be able to take and contain Force users, Jedi and Sith. And they took him and tried to interrogate him and beat him and break him, and they didn't succeed in that case. Anakin and Governor Tarkin, who at the time was a member of the Republic, went to go rescue Evan Peel, and Evan Peel dies in the end of the escape attempt, and just tough as nails. It's at that time that Tarkin actually realizes that he has respect for Evan Peel and respect for Anakin, and they start to build rapport. Tarkin is one of very few individuals who knows, when post-Vader, that Vader is Anakin. Tarkin knows, which Tarkin actually in a comic fights Vader, and Tarkin is epic. Tarkin is takes his shirt off, he's got scars and muscles everywhere, and he takes Vader on pretty darn well. He does hold his own, and he does not lose. He doesn't win necessarily, but he doesn't lose either. The other people that know, obviously Sidious, who rescued and put him in the armor in the first place, and Grand Admiral Thrawn, from the Thrawn trilogy, the new Thrawn trilogy, which was also written by Timothy Zahn, the guy who wrote the old Thrawn trilogy. Thrawn figures it out. Thrawn is also awesome. He's my favorite non-Force wielding character in Star Wars. Evan Peel's awesome, but he's not incredibly powerful. But he is more powerful than Depu Balaba, so I'm going to put him in C tier. General Grievous. Shorter than I expected. No, General Grievous is awesome. General Grievous is not a Force wielder, but he's able to circumvent Force powers. He's super heavy, and he's got magnetic feet, so he can actually prevent, and he can claw. He's got super tough claws and claw into things. We see it in episode 3 where he actually claws into the hull of the ship. Which makes him almost immovable to Force push and Force pull. Lightning would affect him as it would any organic, but most Jedi don't use that. He was able to use Force sabers, run, a blaster, and before he was this, he constantly, he's not in machine form. He's in it because he wanted to be. He was a warrior who believed that these cybernetic implants and upgrades would consistently make him stronger, faster, better. And ultimately they did, but he was actually, before that, he was a Kaleesh, I believe is what they were called, warrior. And they have these, they're very much shaped like he was, only I don't believe they had forearms, I think they only had two. He was a master tactician and shield bearer and all this, incredibly powerful. Not a powerful force wielder, but certainly a powerful warrior. He was able to actually take out the Night Sisters. He almost is able to take out Mother Talzin, who's the leader of the Night Sisters. He kills their seer. He vanquishes a planet, or the civilization within a planet, pretty readily, and so he's pretty beastly. I do think I'd put him in B tier, but I'd put him at high B tier, probably tip top here, because I do think that Dooku, Obi-Wan took him out. I think any of these three could probably do it. Maul, maybe not. That'd be a tough fight between these two. I don't think that Asajj or Ahsoka could. And as a matter of fact, we know Asajj can't. She's actually fairly afraid of him. She gets on. She makes jokes, but then when she figures out what he can do, she kind of starts to fear him a little bit. And it's one of the things. He's scary. Ahsoka does not fear him, but I don't think she'd stand a chance. Kazdan Paratus. Kazdan Paratus is only really known in one of the comics and in the Force Unleashed game. So that's 2007. He's no longer canon. Kazdan Paratus also uses a... Wait. Okay. I was making sure it was Kazdan Paratus. It's really hard to see this on my screen. Kazdan Paratus, I'm pretty sure that's who that is. Kazdan Paratus is on Raxus. He goes and hides. He survives Order 66. He uses a long pole lightsaber, so it's basically a spear kind of lightsaber. The light blade is shorter and the hilt is long. He also is very short, so he uses 4 mechanical arms and a backpack that help him move. Kazdan is a survivor, and he does decently in his fight against Galen Merrick, or Starkiller. He's not super well known, but he is powerful enough to have handled himself decently well with. He survived Order 66, and he's able to handle Galen Merrick for long enough, like longer than most of them. I would put him in D tier. So we have Ki-Adi-Mundi. Ki-Adi-Mundi is a Corellian, I think is how they say it. Ki-Adi-Mundi is supposed to be wise. He's also a Jedi that is unlike a lot of the Jedi in the Council. It's normally said that you can't have love, attachments, wives. But because of Corellian, I think it's Corellian, I could be wrong there, but his alien species is becoming... It's very difficult for them to bear children, and they are becoming extinct. He was allowed to have multiple wives who he would consummate with so that they could try to bear more of his species and keep his species alive. So he was one of the Jedi who was permitted by the Council to break the rule of no attachments, no marriage. So he was married, he was multiple wives, and he would have children with them and try to keep his species going. Unlike most others, in the top of his head, the reason his head's so tall, he does not have brains. He has 2 hearts up there. That's a thing. But as a Jedi, he does a couple of things that are noteworthy, but he's not super powerful. He gets shot down pretty easily on Megiddo, which is that kind of ashy, snowy looking planet. It's actually ash, it's not snow, but it looks like snow. And he gets shot down by his own gunners. It's not a weakness for him to have them turn on him, but at the same time, it doesn't really show super powerful, So I was debating on putting him in low C or high D tier. I do think he's kind of the bridge between these guys and these guys, so I'll put him above Kazdan Paratus in D tier. Okay, so we have Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren's actually really cool. Kylo Ren is powerful. He's conflicted. He's talented. He's not as good of a fighter as the old Jedi. You can see a lot of flailing around and stuff like that. But when it comes to the Force, he's actually pretty darn powerful. He's able to read information from the minds of them. He can't do it for Rey, but that's plot armor, and I don't blame Kylo for that, because in true canon, Rey would not, if it were the way that it used to be, Rey wouldn't be able to block him or prevent him from doing that, regardless of her bloodline. He would have ripped that information straight out, taken it, but instead she somehow gets in his head. That's bull. He's able to stop blaster bolts in midair, which is really awesome. We see that in episode 6. We see him, in episode 7, sorry. We see him as a triad, or as a dyad, excuse me. And the dyad is not a new concept. It's technically in KOTOR 2. It's known as a force chain or force bond. It's really just an ability where you're so linked in the force that you can feel what the other one's feeling, and you pull out some of their power. It does not explain why Rey would have insight into his head, but not he into hers. Right? If it worked that way, they would both have insight into each other's thoughts. So apart from obviously bad writing, he's really awesome. He's really powerful. He's conflicted. He's a great character. And in terms of power, he's pretty high on the list. I would not put him higher than most of the B tier, but I think I'd probably put him at the bottom of the B tier, because we're talking about power. I think these guys who are more classically trained would probably be able to take him out. And I don't think he would do real well with the speed and the technique of Grievous either. So I'm going to put him down here. He's pretty good, but I don't think he'd stand much of a chance against these. I know he wouldn't stand a chance against any of these guys, and I definitely know he would get stomped by these guys in 5 seconds. This is Kit Fisto. Kit Fisto's awesome. Kit Fisto is super awesome. He actually does a lot of good things. He keeps a level head. He's a Nautilin, so he's got a lightsaber that works underwater, as he does. He can breathe underwater. He's really, really cool. Does get killed pretty quickly in episode 3, but he gets killed by Palpatine. And Windu, the thing that happens with them is... the thing that happens with Windu and Kit Fisto and all of them, or excuse me, like Saci 10, I think it's how you say it, is Palpatine is blocking their ability to see it. Mace Windu's able to prevent him from being blocked, but they're able to block. He's able to block the Jedi from seeing his moves, and Fisto is able to defend, I think, 3 moves before he's taken. He loses his apprentice to Grievous's lair. He can fend off Grievous. So if I were going to put Fisto in the list, I would actually put Fisto on a high B tier, even above Grievous. He is able to take Grievous on, so there we are. Luke Skywalker. This is classic Luke Skywalker, so classic Luke Skywalker, I'm going to just put him right there. Classic Luke Skywalker is a beast. In the beginning, he's whiny and he's not able to do anything, but in the end, like I said, he starts to run an academy of his own. He's able to move black holes, galaxies, full-fledged spaceships. I mean, he is an absolute beast in the Force. And then they go on and they show like his great-great-great-great-grandson, and he's a Force ghost appearing to him. And even as a Force ghost in that, he's just such a beast, just wise and powerful, and just, it's ridiculous. Every bit as good as his dad, and a little bit better, in fact. So he's certainly S tier if we're doing classic. If we do new, he's closer to C tier, maybe even D tier. But since this is classic Luke, I'm going with, because it shows the classic picture, definitely S tier. Mace Windu is technically the most powerful Jedi on the Council at the time of the episodes 1, 2, and 3, the prequel trilogy. He is not the wisest. Yoda is the wisest, but he's technically the most powerful. And he has an ability in the Legends canon called Shatterpoint, where basically he can see all of these. It's almost like broken glass. He can see the weaknesses in a person. Oh, eyes turned. Windu is more powerful. And at this point, Windu's supposed to be in his 60s or 70s, I believe, in the prequel trilogy. Yoda is wiser, but Yoda is more frail because of being almost a millennium old. Windu is faster and more powerful. Firstly, he's got the purple crystal, which originally in the old canon was the Hurricane Crystal. And it was supposed to be, it was at the request of Samuel Jackson, of course, but originally in the story, they decided to meld it in by saying it was the combination of the blue from the light side and the red from the dark side. He had an ability called Shatterpoint, which allowed him to see the weaknesses in enemies, even powerful enemies like Vader and Sidious, where he could actually see weaknesses. And he was really able to use that to great effect, mixed in with the fact that he invented his own derivative lightsaber style called Vapad. Vapad is a derivative, it's a light side version of Form 7, Juyo. So, Juyo is the form that Darth Maul used. It's a very aggressive, intentionally dark side form. You have to pull from the dark side to use the form appropriately. And Windu developed Vaapad, finding it to be as aggressive as Juyo and as powerful, but he was able to do all of that without going as far as the dark side. And so he's beastly powerful. We don't see him stand up to Vader we don't see him really stand up to Vader. We don't see him stand up to Dooku. We don't see him stand up to Maul. But we know that he could easily take, I would say he could probably take these guys. Dooku and him as a lightsaber battle alone, I think would be incredibly interesting, because I do think that Windu would be the weaker duelist. Vaapad is a powerful form, but Makashi is a much more measured form. So unless Windu took him out in the early, like just blunt force, break his wrists, which wouldn't be the same, they're about the same age in this, I don't think that Windu would win. I think that Dooku would take him out. Add the force powers to it, though, and this would be an interesting fight. Add Shatterpoint to it, for example, and I think Windu would absolutely take it. So I think with him and Dooku, it would be a coin toss. If they couldn't use Shatterpoint, it would be Dooku, but because he can use Shatterpoint, I think it would be him. However, the question is, I want to put him in A tier. The question is he more or less powerful than suited Vader? And I think the answer in this case is that he is more powerful than suited Vader. Because I think he can see it, I think he has the mobility, I think he could see the Shatterpoint, I think he could use that, and I think it would be a little easier for him to do that. However, the lowest tier of S is Darth Bane, and I do not believe he could take Darth Bane. Darth Bane was not only a more ferocious fighter, but he also had the armor, the parasitic armor on, which was resistant to lightsabers. Bane was also able to fell an entire Sith Academy, had learned the art of essence transfer, the ability to transfer his consciousness and soul into other bodies. The Sith arts were absolutely at his disposal. So Windu is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful Jedi out there. But when you start, this S tier list is literally the tip of the top of the top. You literally have the chosen one. You have someone who can move galaxies. Let's see. I don't know much of the books, but from the movies, Windu has to be on the same level as Anakin, in my opinion. And with just the movies, I would agree with you. The case that I'm using, I guess, in this would be extended canon from episode, the Mortis episodes, which I believe are in season 4 of the Clone Wars. And so I'm pulling that as reference for Anakin's feat, which I don't think I can think of a Mace Windu feat that's been there. Anakin, as the chosen one, goes to this planet called Mortis, which actually houses the physical embodiments of the Force. So it's again, if you disagree, that's okay too. I'm telling you where I'm coming from, but if you disagree, then you disagree. And who knows? I mean, this is all just fanboy stuff at the end of the day, any which way, right? But they go to the planet Mortis, and there's the Father. The Father is the embodiment of the balance of the Force. He has a son, so there's the son who is all things dark side. And then he has a daughter who is all of the light side. And they're literally all of the living Force in those beings. And he puts the son and the daughter he tells them to take Obi-Wan and Ahsoka and kill them. And he tells Anakin, you can save one, make your choice. Anakin is able to make both of them bow to him using just the Force. He's able to make the entire light side of the Force and the entire dark side, the embodiment of the entire light and dark sides of the Force, get on their knees before him. And it's a really great scene because you watch the planet rotate, and then it's literally going day to night, day to night, day to night, and he says, let them go, and they just drop it. And you think, okay, that's no big deal. Maybe he persuaded them through the Force. And then he yells on your knees, and you hear this just bellow. And the light and dark side of the Force, the embodiment of all of them, bows before him. Again, it's the Mortis trilogy. There are 3 episodes. I believe it's season 4, and I think it's fairly early on in season 4. I could be wrong. Maybe season 3. Technically, Windu defeated Palpatine from the movies, but I don't know if Palpatine was fully focused. So the argument, there's been a couple of arguments made on this. I believe there is a canon answer, so I'll try to answer this in a sophisticated way. Palpatine, the answer that people try to say is that Palpatine was not fully focused, and that he might have been faking it and he threw it out. Technically, Windu did beat Palpatine, and I believe the canon answer is that he did beat Palpatine. However, I believe the answer is that the defeat came from the unorthodox style, so of Windu's fighting, which is Vaapad, right? So Sidious is a master of forms 1 through 7, which is Shicho through Juyo. Vaapad is Mace Windu's own style, so it's a style that no one else knows. So Palpatine lost to an unorthodox style. The question became then, would Palpatine be able to, if Anakin hadn't showed up, would Palpatine have died there? And the answer is no. Palpatine could have easily used a burst of Force push or a burst of Force lightning, but when Anakin did come in, he used the momentary defeat to get Anakin to embrace the dark side. So while Windu did beat him in a lightsaber battle, and it is definitely not to detract from Windu, Palpatine, I do think, would not have lost the ultimate fight. I do think that he used that momentary defeat and disarming to get Anakin to embrace the dark side. And Palpatine is canonically, in both canons, has been listed as the most powerful Force user, or most powerful Force user in the galaxy. So I couldn't put him above Palpatine in that case, since both George Lucas and post-Disney, of course still George Lucas, said that Palpatine is the most powerful dark side user and most powerful Force user in the canon. Palpatine and Yoda go to a draw in the movies. Well, they almost go to a draw, but when you actually look at it, Yoda loses pretty drastically. It looks like that they're at a draw in Episode 3, but really what it ended up happening is, so as far as lightsaber combat goes, this is again citation from extended sources, so take it with whatever grain of salt you may choose to. Yoda was a master of one of the forms, Form 5, I believe. And Palpatine was a master of all of the forms. So the fight that they had, arguably, was a fight to delay. Palpatine was not trying to dispatch of Yoda because he knew that was probably not tenable, and he was trying not to be dispatched of. What was really happening is he wanted to keep everybody tied up and focused on him while Anakin and Obi-Wan were doing their thing, because he knew what was going to happen there, or he had a premonition. And at the end of it, what ended up happening is he starts trying to torture Yoda. He starts trying to, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and end this. He's able to use Force Lightning, and Yoda is able to use Tu Dominus, which is the catching, dispersal, and redirection of Force energy, or of energy in general, which Tu Dominus is also used in Episode 5 by Vader. Right, he's able to disarm the blaster bolts that Han shoots at him on Bespin. Anyway, point being is he's able to do that, and it just so happens they get too close to each other, and Yoda is flung across the room and hits the ground. If Yoda had gone back up to fight Palpatine from the floor, which he could have done, I don't think he would have won. I think that continuation would have led to him inevitably dying. So instead, he fled wisely and tried to figure out how his next move needed to be made. Yoda's a beast, no doubt, but Palpatine is Palpatine's tip top. Rebels Season 3, Palpatine can actually reach in between realities. I mean, like, he is a beast. He can actually reach in between the world. He can reach into the world between worlds and change events. Ezra Bridger and Ahsoka Tano are traversing the world between worlds, and Palpatine in his existence can actually see them and actually almost kills them while they're in the world between worlds with Force Lightning. He's not to be trifled with. But yeah, it's there's a lot of extra stuff to it too. So I mean, I agree with you completely. If you take a look at the movies, I would go with that too. I am pulling some extended stuff. And a lot of people don't accept the extended stuff, they don't want to, and that's perfectly okay too. My brother's a good example. Loves the movies, loves some of the shows, doesn't really accept a lot of the extended content, and he would stand on that, and that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I have to go with the things that I know. Windu is top tier. almost tip top. But when you compare him to Luke, Luke can move galaxies. He can heal. So Vader loses some points from Return of the Jedi. How do you mean? When you say, because the thing that gets him to beat the thing that Vader and the suited Vader loses points from non-suited Vader, because non-suited Vader is the chosen one. He's essentially the god of the Jedi, but he loses the fight in Episode 3 and becomes suited Vader, and he never is able to reach his full potential as a result. He kills Palpatine because he's willing to sacrifice himself. Palpatine would have won if it were a fair fight, but Vader was fully ready to throw himself down the shaft with Palpatine if that was necessary. So Palpatine didn't really have a way to stop that. You have Luke above suited Vader, but Vader loses in Episode 3. Oh, Episode 6. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so suited Vader. Yeah, I get what you're saying now. Okay. Yeah, so Vader loses points from Return of the Jedi. So non-suited Vader, this is the question. Vader dominated Luke in 5. He did, but we're taking a look at their top potential, and so the tip-top potential we're looking at for suited Vader would probably be Rogue One, maybe Episode 5 or 6, Episode 5, where Vader beats Luke. But ultimately speaking, Vader couldn't keep up with Luke. Episode 6, Luke beats Vader down. So it's not even just a matter of him losing in general. Luke beats Vader in Episode 6. Then we look at their full potential. Like I said, their top arc, Vader would have been at his strongest around Rogue One, and his demonstration in Episode 5 is pretty good. Luke would have been at his strongest in post-Episode 6, which would have been kind of around the time that Episode 7 should have happened, where he was able to move black holes and entire galaxies using the Force. There are several instances of him mass mind controlling entire groups of people, the Killiks being one of them. Like I said, moving black holes and galaxies, and actually able to shield himself from different various issues by using his astral walk, which is something that we only saw in the movies Episode 8, but in the books he could do that from long distances, and it didn't kill him. He was able to just do that. So Vader's non-suited Vader versus Anakin non-suited Vader versus Luke would be interesting. But when Anakin lost in Episode 3, he lost his ability to reach his full potential and lost a lot of what he was in pre the suit. And Palpatine's actually angry about this and actually puts him in the suit to hinder him as a kind of anger vengeance type thing. So again, Mace Windu, I think there's a big contest. It's actually on Star Wars Theory's channel about who would win, suited Vader versus Mace Windu. I think Windu would win there. But if Vader hadn't lost the fight on Mustafar against Obi-Wan, I don't know that Windu would have stood a chance. I think that would have been Shatterpoint would have helped, but just the raw ability to prevent him to get in, I think that'd be a really tough fight. So that's kind of a tough toss-up, but I think that's fair based on. But again, if you disagree, you disagree. I mean, I'm not here to throw around authority. I'm just trying to call it as best as I possibly can. But yeah, Luke above suited Vader loses in Episode 3, and then in Episode 6, Episode 6 he loses. So Luke would be above suited Vader. So that makes sense. Okay. Dooku is tricky as well because he loses on purpose. Dooku is super tricky. I love Dooku, honestly. I think he's such a good character, and he is technically the most skilled lightsaber combatant on this list at the present, which does make him incredibly tricky. But I'm trying to look at apexes and raw power, and he's a better lightsaber duelist than, so far, like I said, he's a better lightsaber duelist than any of the people on this list. Unlike Palpatine, I believe Dooku versus Windu lightsabers only. Again, I think Dooku would win. Dooku versus Skywalker, just lightsabers, would win. Dooku versus Bane, just lightsabers, I think Dooku would win. It's when we start adding the full potential of their powers in that I think we get that. Vader Both iterations of Vader were incredibly powerful, could throw him around, could use Force lightning. This doesn't get shown in the movies, but it is shown in extended canon, that pre-suited Vader could actually use Force lightning. Post-suited Vader could not, because it would short-circuit his own systems. Bane, again, essence transfer, and some other beastly Force powers, mind controls and such. And then again, Skywalker, Force pushes that could literally change the orbit of a planet. So Dooku is really, really great when it comes to sabers. But Force-wise, he's just not quite on tier with the 5 that are ahead of him. So, but Dooku's great. Dooku's one of my favorite characters, honestly. He's the most sophisticated, one of the more skilled, very well practiced, very well spoken, just really, really cool. And again, like I said, this is the list that I'm going with. But if you disagree and you want to put suggestions as to how you would switch them and why you'd switch, like do that, please do. Because I'm not the end all authority on this. This is just me calling them as a season. So, Maris Brood is the next one. Maris Brood was the apprentice. She's no longer in canon. She was the apprentice in Star Wars The Force Unleashed of Shaak Ti. Shaak Ti is a Togruta, and we'll probably get to her in here. Maris Brood was really cool. She used lightsaber tonfa, which are lightsabers that have handles that come out perpendicular to the actual hilt, so that the saber itself is held in parallel to your arm, your forearm. Maris Brood was really cool. No worries, it's a great list. I appreciate it. Again, I'm not the end all authority, so if you disagree, I'm always happy to hear it. I appreciate it. And it does make me talk it through too, so I'm making sure that I'm being fair about how I'm looking at it, because I also don't want to be like, oh, this one's my favorite S tier. I'm trying to be as fair as I can. Maris Brood was actually decently powerful, and again, that she was able to stand up against Starkiller, who is beastly powerful. But she also turned to the dark side and had to use that power, and she kind of had Beastmaster abilities where she had Rancor that she could call and would try to have them help, and so she had a lot of help in that case, and ultimately she's pretty decent, but I don't think she's incredibly powerful. Holding up to Starkiller is definitely going to put her above D tier though, because anyone who can last 5 minutes with Starkiller is powerful. So I'm going to put her at the very... You know what? Actually, I'm going to put her above Depu Balaba in C tier. That's pretty impressive. Evan Peel's still tough as nails, but I think Depu Balaba is great. And we have Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi is awesome. And before the Kenobi series came out, I would put him in B tier. But I cannot, in all good conscience, now seeing the Kenobi series, I cannot put him in B tier. And this is where things are going to get really confusing. Because there is a series of anomalies inside of the canon that have been written with Kenobi. I know exactly where I'm going to put him, so I'm going to put him there and I'll explain why. I'm going to put him in A tier right here. And here's why. He's not as powerful as Anakin. He does beat Anakin, but he doesn't beat Anakin because of power. He beats him because of a strategic advantage. Which, by the way, real life, having the high ground in a sword fight is not the idea. You want the low ground. The high ground in a sword fight is a great way to get your ankles, calves, and lower body chopped without being able to defend yourself. Low ground makes your head vulnerable, but it also means your arms are up there and able to defend yourself. So, I know he says I have the high ground. I don't know why that's ever been a thing. Having the high ground in a sword fight is a bad idea. That's something that you actually learn when using swords. You want the low ground. If it's a hilly area, you want the low ground. But regardless, it was Anakin, or it was Darth Vader. It was getting cocky, and he made a stupid mistake, and play stupid games, win stupid prizes. He did. Stupid prize he lost was the remaining 3 human limbs he had, and the fight. But his potential and his power was greater than Obi-Wan's. His mind was in the wrong place, so he lost the fight. Obi-Wan did defeat Maul. He defeated him both in Episode 1, and he defeated him again in Rebels Season 3. So nothing there. But he's never won to Dooku. He lost to Dooku in both episodes 2 and 3. And he does technically beat Vader in Kenobi, but ultimately loses to Vader in episode 4. So Vader out-survives him in that particular case. His beating of Vader, I think, in Kenobi, I think was written to be anomalous. I don't know why. They decided to write it that way. It's a super cool fight. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I still love the episodes of Kenobi, so I'm not gonna be harsh on it too much. Yeah, so I would, and that's the thing. I would normally put him above suited Vader in episode, from that, because he does lose to Vader on purpose in episode 4. But we also know that his losing to Vader in episode 4, while it is on purpose, if he had chosen to continue and fight, we do know that he still would have lost. He was not, while Vader's power was tapering off much more slowly than his, age had caused a fairly heavy decline, and it had caused a great increase in his wisdom, but a fairly hefty decline in his actual power and ability. And so we know that if Vader and he had continued to fight and he hadn't just given up, he would have lost against his will regardless. But I understand that logic. The problem with Kenobi is they put it in so that he's throwing these rocks at him like crazy in Kenobi, which is really cool because that's, and hypothetically the idea behind it, which this has been speculated, the idea behind it was that Kenobi regains his power after losing it because he regains his hope, and Vader is still adjusting to this mechanical suit that he's been, in for a couple of years, never had a really big opponent because the Inquisitorius have gone after him. By the time that he hits, the way that it works is in the time that they're in Kenobi, they're at this crisscross where they're kind of at the same. By the time that they're in before episode 4, Anakin is drastically more powerful than Obi-Wan. Kenobi, we see a crisscross where there's Obi-Wan being a little bit more skilled than Vader. And then we end up in episode 4 where we see that crisscross back over and we see Vader again more powerful than Obi-Wan. So it's a 2 out of 3 spread with Vader being the more powerful. So that's why I put him there, but it could go either way. You're not wrong. I do think things change from A New Hope to Empire, at least with Jedi powers. Yoda using the Force to move the ship. I think Obi-Wan had that power in 4, but it wasn't shown. And that's maybe. So another factor that comes into it is that Obi-Wan was not originally supposed to be a Jedi. And he's not technically a very powerful Jedi. He's just one that's been more clever. In the books, he was originally not considered a remarkably gifted Force user. He was supposed to actually go and become a part of the Jedi Agricultural Corps, and he wasn't going to be Qui-Gon's student. Qui-Gon had actually lost a student and was going to refuse to take on another one because of the heartache that he had lost that student to the dark side. And Obi-Wan was just persistent and trained harder than the other students, and he was still not a remarkably powerful or gifted Jedi, but his tenacity led Qui-Gon to take him on as a Jedi. And he became a great duelist and very wise, and he still remained not super powerful. So that's kind of another factor I'm taking in. Yoda, I guess the same applies to Vader as well. We don't see his Force powers in 4, but in 5 we do. And taking into consideration that in 4 we don't really see Vader fighting Obi-Wan in the same way that he fought Luke in 5, because look at episodes 5 and 6 where Vader's fighting Luke, especially 5. Also taking a look at Rogue One, which by the way took place right ahead of, literally just before episode 4. That scene where you see him get away and get the plans, that's him right, the end of Rogue One is right before he boards the Tantive 4 in Tantive 5 in episode 4. It's literally right before the last scene of Rogue One is literally minutes before the first scene of episode 4. And we watch him take out that entire ship's worth of rebels. So the idea is that Vader was toying with Obi-Wan. He was, by the time episode 4 hits, he was just toying. He was kind of fighting slow. Because we see in episode 5, we see at the end of Rogue One, we even see in episode 6 before Luke wins, we see Vader really going all out with the Force powers and with the saber. We see what he's capable of, and we can see that Obi-Wan was not capable of that at that time. So, but the Obi-Wan scene out of context in Obi-Wan would definitely put Obi-Wan ahead of this. So I could see it being flip-flopped. But I think with seeing what he was like in the end of Rogue One and what he was like in 5, I think we can infer that in 4 he was just kind of playing around with Obi-Wan, just kind of fighting slow so he could taunt him and mock him and then kill him. And inevitably, I think if Obi-Wan had chosen not to do it, he would have still died. So, that's my reasoning. But again, I could be wrong. Rogue One made Vader look super powerful. It does kind of seem odd now looking at 4. That's why, because I mean, again, if you take Rogue One, that last scene where he takes out the rebels and he looks down there and she says hope, that's literally just a couple of minutes, maybe at most an hour before he boards the ship, before they board the Tantive ship on the beginning of 4. That first scene of Episode 4 where the Vader comes in is right after that. So if he's doing all of that, we have to say that what he was doing with Obi-Wan was just toying with him. There's no way that he was being serious, because we just saw him take out an entire ship of rebels. So, that's again, there's a lot of inconsistency, because I see what you're saying too, because in Obi-Wan picks up like half a planet of rocks and throws it at him with the Force. It doesn't make a lot of sense, so I'm kind of just trying to balance it as best as I can. So, I believe Jedi John was mentioned, but no one remembers that his name is John Cena. His name is John Cena. I love that. Sorry for that joke on a quick break. No worries. I appreciate you for making that too. Ash would probably appreciate it. I think he's gone to bed though. It's like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning over there, so I don't blame him one bit. But I hope he comes back and sees that and gets to make a comment or something. Oh man, that's good. Thumb and I are actually debating some really cool stuff here too. It really currently 3:30ish p.m. there. It's about 10:30ish p.m. here, but the previous day. So for you, it's 3:30ish p.m. on January 22nd, and for me, it's about 10:40 p.m. January 21st. So, which is really weird how time zones work like that. So anyway, yeah, Thumb and I are having these awesome conversations back and forth. I'm really I'm loving his insight on this too. I get where he's coming from. I love it. Debate is a strong word. I know I'm nothing compared to... No, that's not true. That's not true at all. The fact of the matter is, whether or not you know the extended lore, and I do, it doesn't really matter. If you have an opinion, whether or not that opinion is or isn't based in some random fictitious lore, does not invalidate nor make any less relevant the opinion you hold. So you know enough source material to make that and hold that opinion, and that's perfectly okay. I would argue that we're having a creative conversation on it, and I really appreciate it. Yeah, I would post an Insta post of the new game I just got, and people around the world would say to me, "I cannot believe you already got that. Oh, you're in the future." That's true. I can't believe you broke Street Date by a day. BRB. Okay, no worries. No, I like I said though, Thumb, I appreciate it. You'll have to forgive me that I don't agree with that particular sentence, because if you have an opinion, I may pull some other random lore stuff that I think may make it different, but it doesn't invalidate nor should it diminish your opinion. And I certainly hope I don't make you feel that way, because the reason I'm pulling my opinion and justifying it is because because I want you to understand that I see where you're coming from, and I'll give you valid reason as to why I might have a different opinion. But I'm not trying to say that your opinion's wrong. I hope that's coming across appropriately. I don't want it to be an invalidation of something just because I read books or something. That's, okay. I can barely see him. I think that's Oppo Rancisis. I think that's who that is. That looks like Oppo. A little head. Woo. It comes across well. Oh, I appreciate that. I try to be as eloquent as I can in my wording, but sometimes I stutter and stumble over my intentions with words. I think that's Oppo Rancisis. I can't quite tell, but I think so. Oppo Rancisis he's on the Jedi Council. I think he survives Order 66. He is I'm pretty sure he does. He's a master tactician, and we don't know anything else really about him. So I'm going to put him at top of E tier. Because we don't know enough about him to really give him any more credit, except for that he was a master tactician and that he did survive Order 66. Surviving Order 66 doesn't necessarily mean that this is the case. Like, there are accolades that, for example, Kazdan Paratus stayed in the ring with Starkiller for a while. That's a really big feat. And same situation, there's some really big feats with Ki-Adi-Mundi that kind of put him up there. We got to know more about him in the Clone Wars, as well as in episodes 1, 2, and 3. So there are some feats that put him up here, but otherwise he would probably be down here too, right under Operensis, but or right above. But Darth Sidious. Okay, boop 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 boop. This I don't think it is a surprise to anybody. Boop. Sidious is considered by he has been vocalized as by George Lucas, by Disney, as the most powerful Force wielder in the current movie canon. He is a master of 7 forms of lightsaber combat. He knows all the Force powers you can know, including things like Sith sorcery, the ability to look in between realities, the ability to affect things in the world between worlds, the ability to affect things in and out of time. There's not really any major power that he doesn't have some knowledge of how to do. Got a phone call, so had no idea what you said to me just then. I don't know. I apologize if I said something. I had forgotten what it was, so I apologize. I think I said BRB and if you're talking about the video, the thing about the game, I had said it was funny because people are wondering how you broke street date, but then realizing that you are in the time zone where that street date had been broken. Oh, I thought it was about me posting in the future. Oh, yeah. So that's what I was saying. People are wondering how you broke street date, but then for you it is street date, and for us it's a day behind, you know? So it's like, oh, I can't believe you got that midnight of the 23rd, but for us it's, you know, it's like 10 a.m. the 21st. Or, I mean, the 22nd. Time zones aren't quite that drastic. But yeah, which is really cool. But the downside of it is that you got summer right now, and we get winter, and I much prefer winter. Because you get winter in like July, I think, and that's our summer. If I get Tears of the Kingdom on release day, it'll be before More of the World. That's true. That's cool though. That's really, really cool. That's just a cool thing to be able to say. Okay, Plo Koon. Good lord. Plo Koon's awesome. June, July, and August for winter, but yeah. So for us, it's December, January, February, and in fact, Tuesday we are meant to get a lot of snow, and I'm super excited about that. And I would love if June, July, and August were also winter for us because I like winter and I don't like summer. I know Australia gets hot in the summer, and so does Texas. We get to be down here up here where I am, depending on where you are. Summer is 112, 115 degrees Fahrenheit, so not far from 50 Celsius. It gets to be pretty hot, and it's usually in that range of 108 to 115 for probably 8 of the 12 months. And then the remainder of it, you know, you might have 90 degrees, and some of them you might have 80, and then there may be 2 total weeks where the temperatures are like 40, 50, and there may be like 2 days out of the whole year where we get snow and it's below 0 or something. Like hottest day we had this year was 118, I think is what my car read. The hottest day from where I was 118 degrees Fahrenheit, and the coldest day was 34 degrees below. Not far from 50 Celsius. Rarely goes above 40 Celsius tops. Yeah. Let me see if I'll give you the measurement. I'll tell you what the hottest and the coldest day where I have been so far has been. So 118 Fahrenheit was the hottest day that we had this year for me, which is 48 degrees Celsius. So, 48 degrees Celsius. So I said not far from 50. So 48 degrees Celsius was the hottest day that I had this year. And the coldest day that I had this year was negative 37 degrees Celsius. 37 below 0. Which was like 5 weeks ago. Yeah. So we get the extremes. We're mostly in the hot end, but when we get cold, we get cold. It can be a beast. Down where I live, it can be a beast. But it's okay. I've been here a while, so not all. I mean, I've worked in several states, but this one's okay. Not too bad. Not my favorite by any stretch, but it's not too bad. Okay, who are we? Oh, Plo Koon. Plo Koon is also a beast, very intelligent, very compassionate to the clone troopers, which is part of his downfall. He invested a lot of trust in them and they shot him down. Very good lightsaber duelist, decently powerful, very wise. I would definitely put him in I'm going to put him in A tier. And I'm going to put him at the bottom of A tier. Very, very cool. He's between bottom A tier, top of B tier, but he's really cool. Very wise, very intelligent. Very, very cool. What I'm about to do is going to be shocking, but this is Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn, and I'm going to explain, I'll explain why. I'm going to put him there first. Ready? Boop. Qui-Gon Jinn, S tier. This sounds weird. Qui-Gon Jinn did lose to Darth Maul. But here's where I'm going to throw a curveball. Qui-Gon Jinn, so I guess this time I should probably say the lightsaber colors, and I should kind of explain where the power part of it comes. So lightsaber colors actually represent something. In the old canon, they represented something different. In the new canon, they kind of represent the same thing as a different canon as to how they become that. So in the old canon, red lightsaber crystals were synthesized, they were made, and they always came out red. They were slightly stronger, slightly more powerful than the naturally occurring blue and green and purple ones and yellow ones. And in the new canon, they are regular lightsaber crystals that you pour your hatred into until you cause the crystal to quote-unquote bleed, which causes it to turn red. You can also purify bloody crystals or bleeding crystals. Ahsoka Tano does this in the book Ahsoka, and her purification gives her white lightsaber blades, which we see in the book of Boba Fett and we see in the Mandalorian. Or book of Boba Fett, I don't know if we see it, I can't remember if we see it. Plus, Mail headbutted him. Cheap shot. That's oh yeah. Maul's fought dirty for darn sure. Yeah, I knew what you meant there. I saw that at first, and then I was like, yeah. But yeah, he did. It was a cheap shot. But the way that it worked back when Episode 1 came out. Episode 1 came out in 1999. I remember I went to theaters to see it. I was so excited. I went to a Circuit City. I went to a Circuit City to look for Star Wars games. Picked up a Star Wars game that I want to play on the channel. I don't think anybody would watch it, but it was one of my favorites, and I still like it. It was called Gungan Frontier, and it was basically like Populous, but it was all Star Wars. You just kind of played God on this planet, and it was so cool, and I bought it. I have it in box in '99. Bought it brand new. So freaking fun. So cool. And DroidWorks too. DroidWorks was really fun. I got a lot of fond memories for freaking Episode 1 and my thoughts and I really like Episode 1. I know a lot of people was like, it's not good, it's boring. I really like Episode 1. 2 I don't care for, but 1 and 3 I like. 3 I think is a masterpiece. 1 is, I just like it. The music's amazing. I don't care. Jar Jar doesn't bother me all that much. I really don't care. Anakin, the actor and Anakin doesn't really bother me that much, so I'm not really worried about it. I love how in that fight he's so patient, waiting for the energy bars to go away while Obi-Wan is in. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great contrast. And that's part of why I put... So lightsaber meanings. I'll explain this. Red was synthetic. Now it's crystal bleeding. Purple is now it's the mix of light and dark. It's the mix of a blue blade and a red blade. In the old canon, it was a special hurricane. What was called a hurricane crystal that Windu had. And then you had blue. You had 3 major colors. You had the 3 that were in line with your rank. Blue was the Jedi Guardian. Jedi Guardians were lightsaber fighters predominantly. They were physical. They didn't really use the Force as much as they used their physical fighting skills. And then you had Sentinels, which were yellow. Sentinels basically were kind of a balance in between. They would use stealth and subterfuge if they needed to. They would use Force tricks where physical was needed. Physical where Force tricks were needed so that they could throw their opponent off. And they weren't as good at either one as their other counterparts, but they were a good balance. And then green were Consulars. Consulars were patient and deep in Force use. They were really good at how they controlled themselves and used the Force. Which is to say, if Darth Maul was a Jedi, he would have had blue energy blades coming out of his saber. He would have been a fighter. He's not as powerful in the Force. Qui-Gon is a consular, green, so he's more Force powerful than he is lightsaber powerful. But Qui-Gon is also the innovator who discovered how to preserve your essence in the Force and how to become a Force ghost. Episode 3, we hear this said, and then we take a look. Season 6 has 2 episodes of Yoda learning from Qui-Gon how to become a Force ghost and basically circumvent death. It's how Obi-Wan knew how to do it. It's how Yoda learned how to do it. It's basically every Force ghost that we see learned from the teachings that spawned from Qui-Gon Jinn. So Qui-Gon truly couldn't be killed because he discovered how to preserve himself beyond death, despite the fact that he dies. And that makes most of these people less than him, in my opinion. Now, you still have Bane, and Bane had another way to circumvent death. He was a better fighter, and he had another way to circumvent death, and that he could use essence transfer. He could change himself into someone else and transfer. So that's where I put him above that. Anakin, Luke, and Sidious were all still more powerful than him, despite the fact that they would learn how to circumvent death in one way or another. They could easily take him out with a toe-to-toe fight. And force power, lightsaber, it wouldn't really matter what arena you threw them into, they would be able to take him out. But I do believe that if he's not in the top A tier, he needs to be S tier because he did discover the technique to exist beyond death, which is great. Qui-Gon is a great character. But if you're interested in seeing exactly how he did it and kind of discussing it, what it's like and why you do this and kind of learning some of the rules, Season 6 The Clone Wars, I think it has 2 or 3 episodes that Yoda goes to a planet and learns from the disembodied voice of Qui-Gon Jinn. And he kind of, at that time, Qui-Gon can't really physically manifest himself. He can only do it in voice, but he still exists there, and he explains it and he teaches Yoda how to transcend death and become a Force ghost. And Yoda would pass that down with Qui-Gon, and Yoda would pass those teachings down. Qui-Gon would pass it down to Obi-Wan, so on and so forth. They would get to Vader as well eventually. So very, very cool. And they'd get to Luke. Now, Sidious didn't do that. Sidious had a different circumvent of death, as the new canon says, but I'm not entirely sure. Next is General Ram Koda. Ram Koda is really complicated. He also is able to stand toe-to-toe with Starkiller, which puts him up pretty high. But he's really easily broken. Unlike Kazdan Paratus, I mean, he survives, and he survives for longer. He becomes friends with Starkiller, which is fine. But Kazdan Paratus is able to stand toe-to-toe, and he ends up dying, but he dies with his convictions intact. Ram Koda kind of flip-flops. He kind of loses his ability. Like, he loses the fight with Starkiller and is blinded, and when he's blind, he just kind of gives up and goes and becomes an alcoholic. And then eventually he comes back, and he kind of trains Starkiller, but he's still no match for Starkiller. So, in my opinion, he's kind of not super high on the list, but he's not super low. I think I'm going to put him at the top of C tier, because he is a wiser teacher than Starkiller, but he's not as strong as Starkiller, naturally gifted. And he gives up his convictions really quick. Rey. Power-wise, I want to put her in F. She's not a good character. But power-wise, I can't do that. So I'm not going to. I'm going to put her according to the power ranking. I want to put her in F. She's not a good character. There's no reason for her to be powerful. There's no reason for her to know how to use her powers. There's no reason for her to have any of it. It doesn't matter that she's a bloodline this or that. There's no reason for her to be what she is, but somehow she is. We see her reverse the mind trick on Kylo Ren. We see her beat Kylo in a lightsaber competition by using the Force, and also in the battle by using the Force. We see her hold her own against the Praetorian Guards with Kylo. We see her break her lightsaber in half with Kylo. We see her fighting against... We see her in Episode 9. I'm not going to say who, because I don't think Vidi's seen it, so I'm not going to say, but we see her fighting in Episode 9 and winning. We see her winning a fight against the big bad there. We see her winning fights against Kylo, which shouldn't have happened. I hate it. Power-wise, she would go probably right here. I don't like it. I don't think she deserves it. I don't think there's any reason for her to have it. There's no reason in the books. There's no reason in the movies. There's no reason in any canon why she should be right where she is. But because of the feats that she's displaying, despite the bad writing, that's about where she would go. No, I'm gonna move her down just a bit. I don't think she'd be able to take Vader. She wouldn't be as good of a fight. Trying to figure this out. No, yeah, she would. She would too. Okay, yeah, no, there. That's right. In episode 9, she uses Force Lightning. Vader couldn't take that. Doesn't matter what he thought he could do, he wouldn't be able to take that. So, pre-suit Vader would absolutely wreck her, but post-suit Vader couldn't take the Force Lightning. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered if he had the lightsaber and knew he could block it. It wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have mattered. So, yeah, that's about where she would go. I mean, she's not as good of a fighter as Dooku, but she'd be able to throw him around with the Force. As all the rocks she picked up in episode 8. Luke struggles to stack like 4 on top of each other by episode 5, but by episode 8, she's able to pick up literally boulders. Obi-Wan does the same thing, but she's a stronger... Somehow she's got the plot armor of being stronger in the dark side of the Force than Obi-Wan is in the light side of the Force. I don't think he'd be able to stand a chance. Maul would not be able to stand a chance, because whether it was plot armor or otherwise, he lost to Ahsoka Tano technically, although I do believe it was plot armor. But I think Rey is the most plot armored character in the entire thing. And yes, she does technically, and I know you're probably noticing that she's lower on the list than someone she beats. But that is completely plot armor, and it wasn't her using her power. It was her reflecting power of that individual back at them. So it wasn't her being more powerful, it was her being a mirror for the power that was being shot at her. So that's why I think that's fair. I don't like it. I actually really hate this particular one, but in order to be fair, I have to put her there. Dang. Cal Kestis. I like Cal Kestis. Cal Kestis is a good character. He is not a success all the time. He's powerful, but not uber powerful. He's got some repressed memories as a Jedi. He's having to relearn how to be a Jedi. But he's doing pretty good at it. He's able to fight on. He does not take on Vader. There's no way he would have won that fight. Vader is a beast. And I love that we see that at the end of Fallen Order. We see the kind of power that Cal has, and we also see where he falls short. I'm not going to spoil anything. Again, I don't think Vidya's had the chance to play it, but we do get to see how kind of powerful Cal is, and we get to see where he wouldn't be able to make it. And I do think if I were going to put Cal up here, I'd probably put him somewhere like this. Cal's actually pretty darn strong. Cal's pretty beastly. He's not perfect. He makes his mistakes. He's relearning some stuff, but he's able to take on some really powerful Inquisitorius, which is really impressive. And the Inquisitorius are not weaklings. They're pretty intense. So I'm gonna argue that he probably belongs right about there. Ow. Sorry about my head. Sassy 10. Sassy 10 is not remarkably powerful. He's definitely not as powerful as Kit Fisto. I'm probably gonna put him down here at the bottom. No, you know what? I'm gonna put him at the top of C. Sassy 10 was part of the strike force that went to go take out Palpatine with Mace Windu and Kit Fisto, and he's killed in one hit. He's not a weakling, but one hit, come on. He doesn't also do anything super noteworthy otherwise. I mean, there's a couple of sacrificial stuff, some things he does in the comics, but nothing really major. He is on a council that doesn't really make anything. An accolade doesn't really make a great character. I'm gonna put him down at top of C. I mean, he stayed brave in the face of failure which is more than I can say for Ram Koda. But yeah, it's just, yeah. Shakti is D tier. Low D tier. Shaak Ti is wise, and she teaches Maris Brood, who you can see above her, and that's great. Shaak Ti also dies like 4 different ways. There's a cutscene from the movie in episode 3 where she dies in the middle of a hall. She dies in The Force Unleashed. She dies in the Clone Wars. She just dies a whole lot. She's not awful. She did teach Maris Brood, but she just dies a whole bunch. She's not E tier, but she's not great. I believe, I can't say for a fact, but I believe this is I can't quite tell. It doesn't look much like, I think that's supposed to be Darth Plagueis. He doesn't look like a Mune though. He looks like a Duro. It looks like a Duro. So I'm not sure if that's supposed to be... Plagueis was immune. And I can't tell if that's a Duros or not. Maybe? The head's not really quite long enough? I don't know of a Duro, but I also don't know of a Duro. That he's got no nose. I mean, Munes had noses. Well, no, they didn't. That's not. They had kind of like bumps. I don't know who that's supposed to be. I'm gonna say that that's supposed to be. It's not a good drawing, but I'm gonna say that's supposed to be Plagueis. Because it kind of looks like him, and I don't know of a Duro. I don't know of a particularly powerful Sith Duro. That looks like a Duro, but I'm going to say that that's supposed to be immune, which is Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis the Wise was Sidious's master, and was super powerful, and incredibly wise, and incredibly intelligent, had a knack for numbers, just lots and lots of good stuff. Munes, by the way, if you're curious for frame of reference, this looks like a Duro to me, but I don't think that's who it's supposed to be. I can't think of a Duro Sith. The only thing I can think of was when Cad Bane disguised himself as a Jedi, but he didn't carry a saber. So I'm gonna say, I know this is probably not it, but I think this is supposed to be Plagueis. If you want to know what a Mune is the alien in Episode 2 when you see Dooku sitting at the table in Geonosis, and he says, the Techno-Union Army, well, that's the Techno-Union Army, and then the other one that says, the Banking Clan will sign your treaty. That's a Mune. That thing that said the Banking Clan will sign your treaty, that's a Mune. That's what Darth Plagueis was. He was super tall, super strong. His Force Master, or Sith Master, was a Bith. Excuse me, which is those are the aliens that play the Cantina theme in Episode 4. Plagueis was incredibly powerful. Plagueis was not to be trifled with. I think Plagueis probably should go also S tier, but under Obi-Wan, because he also had figured out. So again, Mace Windu, why is Mace Windu here at the A tier, whereas Plagueis is up at S tier? Plagueis could actually create life with midichlorians, and I hate the midichlorian thing, so we're just going to say the Force. Plagueis and Sidious are the reason that Anakin had been born with no father but a mother. They created him in the Force. They technically were his father. So Plagueis was strong enough to manipulate life and death in the Force, which means that while he may not be able to take Windu in a fight from saber to saber, it is possible that he feasibly could have just stopped Windu from living in the Force. That's the kind of power that he and Sidious had. He couldn't figure out how to prolong his own life, and he was killed in his sleep, but he could figure out how to make life in the Force and also just stop life in the Force. And that's pretty powerful. Qui-Gon is above him because Qui-Gon being stopped from living would not stop him from manifesting as a Force apparition. So the power wouldn't hold anything over him. Windu did not learn how to become a Force apparition because they didn't learn until the end of Episode 3. Yoda didn't learn, and so Windu never could become a Force ghost. And so that's why I've got him kind of there. He never could become a Force ghost. He didn't learn the technique. And Plagueis could, like I said, feasibly, before Windu even got up to him, Plagueis could just stop him from living in using the Force. He could convince the heart to stop beating, or, you know, like, it's just all kinds of weird life and death stuff that Plagueis was capable of that is really passed on to Palpatine. It's very, very brutal stuff. Vader actually uses some of it in some of the novels too, which is really cool, the non-canon ones. Star Killer is Galen Merrick is his name, and he goes right there, S tier, top tier, S tier. So in canon, he technically does die to Palpatine, but Galen Merrick is an absolute powerhouse with the Force. He is a great lightsaber duelist, very, very powerful, and we see at the very beginning of The Force Unleashed, he's able to literally call the saber from Vader's hand against Vader's own Force powers, own ridiculous Force powers. He's trained by Vader. He's able to fight Vader saber to saber, or the Emperor, depending on the ending you pick. He pulls an Imperial Star Destroyer out of orbit down towards a planet. He's able to use Force Lightning. He's able to push entire armies of people with his Force Push abilities and Force Pull abilities. He's able to surround himself, and if you see the trailer of the beginning of the second game, he's able to use a Force Repulse, which is a Force Push that is so powerful that if you were in his immediate proximity, somewhere around 10 feet in a 10-foot radius, he can actually use a Force Push so powerful that disintegrates Stormtrooper armor and Stormtroopers. That is a beastly series of feats. He's just ridiculously powerful. And again, so Darth Bane being a better fighter than him, that Force Repulse would still disintegrate him. It's just a beastly amount of power that he possesses. It's not quite Vader taming the light and dark sides of the Force themselves. It's not quite Luke Skywalker moving a black hole, and it's not quite Sidious reaching through time and existence. But it's pretty darn up there. I would argue that that's probably a fair place for him to go. Down here at the bottom, I can't quite make out, again, I'm not sure if I can't quite make out who that is. I think that's supposed to be Adegalia's replacement. When Adegalia died from being impaled, they replaced her with the same alien species. And I believe this is Stas Ali, I think is her name. And there's not a lot we know about her either. She just kind of got replaced and didn't really do anything. She's probably right under Adegalia. They just kind of didn't do much. No, I'd say she didn't even do as much as Ayla Secura, so I'm gonna put her right there. We have Yaddle. Yaddle's story was kind of an odd one, but Yaddle is actually kind of a sad one now. Now that we know and we see it, Tales of the Jedi, those 3 of the episodes are about Dooku, and Yaddle is in them, and they're good friends, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff that happens. We get to learn a lot about Yaddle. Yaddle's actually decently powerful, and decently well-tempered and even-tempered. I would say Yaddle's actually probably the top of C tier or the bottom of B tier, but I think top of C tier is probably fair. She's decently powerful, but we see her loss and we see what happens to her, and she does lose to someone that is much higher on this list, but she does lose by a pretty wide margin. It's not like it was a close fight, and I think that any of the people between her and that person also would have easily taken her out. So if they had fought her, I think they would have taken her out. So my argument in this case is that she might belong here, but she wouldn't belong any higher or any lower. So it's either top of C, bottom of B, and I'm going to say top of C is fine. Yarael Poof. We don't know really much about him. He survived Order 66, or no, he didn't survive Order 66, he died. He's sacrificed himself to some other cause before Order 66 took place. Not remarkably powerful, does have a special ability in the Force that's kind of interesting, kind of like Opos Rancisis, good lord. Some other random ability, but he was probably, this is probably fair. And then we have Jedi Master Yoda. And technically speaking, I should put Yoda right here. But that's not, we're doing this as far as power goes, not wisdom. And so technically, if we were going according to wisdom, Yoda could go right about there, or maybe even up here, but we're going according to power, which would put Yoda probably somewhere around, well, I'm going to go ahead and put him here. Technically speaking, he would probably fit somewhere closer to here. Because as he got older, his power did taper quite a bit. And it was really his wisdom and his ability to outsmart his opponent that gave him an advantage. But arguably, these guys didn't have the opportunity or the means to take out Sidious. I'm gonna put him there because I do think that does take. I do think that they were pretty evenly matched. Luke would eventually grow up to become much more than a rival for what Yoda was, and Anakin at his apex in Episode 3 against Obi-Wan is also enough of a fight for Yoda. Yoda says that Obi-Wan couldn't take on the Emperor. And that's very true. Obi-Wan would have lost that fight, like, in a snap. But I'm not convinced that the opposite, Anakin versus Yoda, I'm not convinced that Anakin would have lost the Yoda fight as quickly as Obi-Wan would have lost the Sidious fight. I'm actually kind of convinced that Sidious would have beaten any of the three. At least from the movies, Yoda has to be at least number 2. Well, so that this is where I get a little bit curious, because I think if Yoda, Anakin, or Obi-Wan, any of the three of them had fought Sidious, they would have lost. We know Yoda did. We know Obi-Wan would have, because he said, "Send me to kill the Emperor. I will not fight Anakin." And Yoda says, "You're not powerful enough yet." And then Anakin, I don't think could have taken the Emperor either. But I'm not convinced that the reverse is true. I'm not convinced that if Obi-Wan and Anakin fought, Anakin lost because he got cocky. And Obi-Wan knew how to get into Anakin's head a little bit, and he knew what Anakin's moves were. I'm not convinced that if Anakin and Yoda had fought, that Yoda would have just hands down defeated him. If Yoda would have thought to get inside of Anakin's head like Obi-Wan did, and knew Anakin's moveset as well as Obi-Wan did, maybe, but I don't think Yoda's fighting Anakin would have been a shutout. I honestly think Anakin would have, I think Anakin, and let me explain my reasoning for that. Anakin actually talks about in Episode 2 rivaling Master Yoda as a swordsman, where Obi-Wan tells him, well, only in your mind. By the time they hit Episode 2, the end of Episode 2, we see Dooku keep his own. Dooku fights and keeps his own against Yoda. Anakin loses to Dooku. Episode 3, we see Anakin and Obi-Wan fight Dooku, and Anakin technically wins against Dooku. Meaning that his skill was at least equal to Dooku's, which means that he would have been able to keep his own against Yoda, because Dooku could keep his own against Yoda. So Anakin probably would have been able to keep his own against Yoda if he had fought. It's just that Obi-Wan couldn't have kept his own against Sidious. So arguably, I think I would argue that I agree at this point I'm going to keep him at number 2. But I think that if I took it all into consideration, I could feasibly see him at position 4. I could see Anakin taking him out. I know Luke for a fact would, at least in Legends, his powers absolutely would demolish Yoda's. He does some just beastly stuff. I'm talking about moving planets. I'm talking about rearranging galaxies. That is some big stuff. But I do think I am going to keep him at 2 just for the sake of seeing them fight against. We know that he could fight. We know he could keep his own against Sidious for long enough. But that's the thought that gets me. I don't think that if Yoda went against Anakin on Mustafar, I don't think that it would have been a shutout. I honestly think that unless Yoda could have gotten in Anakin's head, Anakin would have held his own just fine. The problem with it is that Anakin and Obi-Wan were using the same style, and they knew their style, which is a moderation style. Yoda used a style that was incredibly fast and acrobatic, but it took a lot of energy, and you can't maintain it for long periods of time. So the problem would have come where Obi-Wan and Anakin were fighting in a moderation style. Surizu, I believe, is what it was called. They were fighting in that moderation style against each other, and they were able to conserve energy and taper off. Yoda can only keep his up for short bursts, which means while they might have been fighting for an hour, Yoda would have only been able to keep his up for maybe 20 minutes. If Anakin could have defended against that very aggressive, very fast 20-minute barrage, then Yoda would be tired and slow, and Anakin would still be fresh, or relatively fresh. And it would have meant that Yoda would have stood no chance. It would have had to have been a battle of force, which we know that Anakin is more powerful in the Force than Yoda, per the Clone Wars Season 3. So that's where I'm looking at it. I do think that taking peak power should be important as well. Well, so that's why that's kind of where I was thinking to put Yoda in position 4, because Anakin's peak power, Obi-Wan's peak power is more powerful than what, pre-suit Vader or post-suit Vader? Because Obi-Wan's peak power is, as far as I'm aware, Obi-Wan's peak power was not more powerful than pre-suit Vader. That's Anakin. Pre-suit Vader is the chosen one, so he's actually supposed to be the single most powerful Force user in the galaxy. It's the fact that he does get put in the suit that prevents him from being the most powerful and puts Sidious there. Suited. Happy with list I may be. Star Wars casual I am. No, that's all right. Again, I like hearing the debates. I like hearing the other points of view. So that, and again, I kind of discussed it, but I don't know if I did a great job. I have a big question as to whether or not, and I'm basing it on the show too. I don't know if post-suit Vader is apectically less powerful than Obi-Wan. Because I think Obi-Wan's his apex moment is going to be that episode 5 Kenobi fight, where he lifts all the rocks, and I think the Obi-Wan show kind of turned the tide for me. That was Obi-Wan actually being kind of, oh yeah, no, for sure. I'm looking at peak power, and I think peak power is either Obi-Wan episode 3 or Obi-Wan in Star Wars episode 3. Or Obi-Wan in episode 5. And episode 5, I think, is a better Force demonstration because he picks up all of those boulders and throws them at Vader. But where's John Cena? There's no John Cena on here. I didn't do the thing right. But he's just up on the screen. He's just like S tier. I think that Obi-Wan is apex at the end of Revenge of the Sith, or apex at episode 5 of Obi-Wan, where he picks up all the boulders and throws it. And I think that would put him at his apex. But I don't think Vader is at his apex at that point. Episode 5, Obi-Wan throws boulders. Yeah, I believe it's the last episode that they have their duel, and you can see, so Obi-Wan is buried in Earth. Just ridiculously buried in Earth. He digs himself out through the Force, blasts himself out with the Force, gets up, fights with Vader, and then towards the end, Vader's against a wall. He picks up a ton of these large rocks and boulders and starts throwing tons and tons of them. Some of them are almost as big as Obi-Wan himself are, if you take a look in the background. Some of them are little rocks. No, episode 5 of Obi-Wan, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, he did in episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. So I think the apex of Obi-Wan is Obi-Wan episode 5, when he's throwing the boulders at Vader. And I don't think, at that point, I do not believe that Vader is at his apex. I believe that Vader was reaching his apex. I don't believe, pre-suited Vader had not reached his apex. He was still on the thing, and he lost to Obi-Wan because he got cocky, and so now he couldn't reach that apex he was going to reach. So suited Vader had to start the journey all over again, relearning how to move, how to breathe, how to fight, what force powers he could and couldn't use. I do not believe that by the time we hit Vader episode in Obi-Wan episode 5, I do not believe Vader's at his apex. I believe Vader hits his apex somewhere around the Rogue One, between Rogue One and episode 5. And I believe that apex versus Obi-Wan, we see that he's able to kill he's able to take on Luke Skywalker, who's much younger and much more fresh in his youth. And we also see him take out an entire shuttle of rebel fighters. And I think he toys with Obi-Wan in episode 4. I think he intentionally fights him slow and kind of teases him and makes him believe, and then Obi-Wan kind of does his thing. I also think Vader is conflicted, being a mixed robot. Emotionally, he has weak points, but so does... Well, so, yeah, I mean, they're both... Emotionally, they're both easy to break, but the problem with it is that Obi-Wan wasn't convicted of what he was doing until late on, and I think that that's the big issue with him. Obi-Wan episodes 1 through 3 are really him just trying to rediscover himself. And Vader does not have that. Vader isn't conflicted in terms of his emotions as a robot. He's angry all the time, but he's definitely firm in the dark side. There's a Vader comic, actually, where there's a woman nurse who romanticizes him and constantly collects pieces of his suit and literally flecks of his skin and things like that. And she's a stalker. And she has these dreams about marrying him and him teaching her the Force and her being his Jedi wife. And she walks in after this whole comic of showing the romanticized, thinking she'll be able to appeal to his human side, seeing him without his helmet. And he literally just pulls his saber out, stabs her through the heart, walks off, puts his helmet on, walks off, and says, "Pick up this garbage." Like, he knows who he is until episode 6, and it is not a pretty sight. Luke also gets big points for episode 8. He lost a lot. I didn't even have episode 8 Luke on here. It's such a disappointment. He lost. Unless you're talking about the astral projection, but again, this is Legends Luke, and Legends Luke could astral project across systems without even breaking a sweat, and yet in episode 8 it killed him. It was really disappointing for me. But only because in the books he could astral project like that. He fights around on a fart. Well, he fakes him out with using astral projection. But in the books, Luke can use astral projection from distant planets, and he doesn't even break a sweat. Like, he's just like, no big deal. Where were you? He's setting on Yavin, and they'd be, where were you? And he's like, I was on Tatooine. I was just walking, and then he wakes back up. And in this one, that killed him. But we have it in the books where he does that frequently, and it doesn't cause him any problems at all. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's why I really get angry at some of the stuff they've done, because he was such a powerful character in the books. He was such a powerful, ridiculously powerful character. Astral projection was no problem. Moving galaxies, not a problem. He could do all this kind of stuff. And in episode 8, it kills him just to do an astral projection from a galaxy away. So, gosh dang it. I think I'm decently happy with this tier list. For the most part, I think I'm decently happy with it. I don't think there's a lot that I mean, I could definitely see some moves. Some of the ones you suggest, I could definitely see where those could go either way. I also thought Luke was due. He was kind of bitter at that point. True, and I understand that too. Again, this Luke is the young Luke, so I'm going according to the Legends Luke on this one. There's a lot more lore to pick up from the Legends Luke and stuff, but at least from the director. No, I agree with you. I think you're exactly right. This one being the younger Luke, I use Legends Luke. There's so much more material on Legends Luke than there was on canon Luke, and it just didn't make sense. Because canon Luke, if this were canon Luke, current canon Luke, he would be somewhere down here. But, I mean, the astral projection being the only thing keeping him from E tier. But with it being Legends Luke, there's so much material on Legends Luke, so that's why I think he's pretty fairly there. Honestly, Legends Luke is much more powerful than Yoda, but Kylo is down here at the bottom of B tier. Kylo's great, and he's powerful, but he's not... I don't think he could really take on most of the people that are above him. Asajj Ventress would definitely wipe the floor with him. Ahsoka would wipe the floor with him. I don't think he'd be able to keep up with... He might be able to keep up with Grievous. And he might be able to keep up with Kit Fisto, and he might be able to keep up with Plo Koon, but those are big maybes. Cal Kestis, no way. Darth Maul, no way. Obi-Wan, nope. Dooku, heck no. Vader, heck no. Rey, apparently not. And Windu, absolutely not. He wiped the floor. Snoke's not on this one because he's not... I don't know why they didn't put him on here. Snoke would technically be up here because Snoke is technically this guy. But if I were going to put Snoke on the list and not take that into consideration, I would put Snoke like, I technically would have to put Snoke right here, but because subterfuge was used to kill him, Snoke would probably not go here. Snoke would probably go right here. Just because I don't think if Snoke knew it was coming, I don't think he would have lost. I mean, we see him ricochet lightning off the ground to hit him, which is a force power we've never seen used that way. So that's just my opinion. But he would go somewhere around where Kylo is. Technically, though, knowing what we know in Episode 9, Snoke would have to go up here. But without that, he'd go down here. The Jedi killers. When we're saying Jedi killers, which ones are we talking about? You're probably using the right term, and I'm not catching on. LOL. I didn't know. You're talking which episode are they in? And the only reason I'm saying it is because we've got a couple of iterations of those. We have the Inquisitorius, which are technically Jedi killers. They're Sith trained post Order 66 by Vader, exclusively to go out and take the Jedi who have survived Order 66. They're led by the Grand Inquisitor, and they are given names like Fourth Sister and Third Brother, Fifth Brother, those types of things. We have the Praetorian Guards, who were Snoke's right-hand men and women, which were the red-suited guys in Episode 8. We have the Royal Guards, who are the red-suited guards in Episode 6 that were at the Emperor's right hand. They were featured in the Obi-Wan TV show, but I think they're featured in the animated cartoon shows. Yes, the Inquisitor. So the Inquisitors, yeah. Inquisitors and Inquisitorius, almost all of them fall in the same... They should be on here. I don't know. I didn't make this list. We'll go ahead and use this guy right here, because I don't think this is who this is supposed to be. It looks like it's an Umbaran, not an Umbaran, I'm sorry. It looks like it is a Pauan. There we go. And the Grand Inquisitor is a Pauan, so maybe that's what's going on. But the Grand Inquisitor never wore these clothes, never carried a shield, and he uses a double-bladed lightsaber that has rotations on it. I'm just going to use this as a proxy, because otherwise this is a fan character that I don't know about. The Grand Inquisitors, most of them would fall somewhere in low B tier. The Grand Inquisitor would fall somewhere in A tier. The Grand Inquisitor is probably right here above Cal. And there's some really good reasons about it. So the original Inquisitorius are not bad. Zork Grand Inquisitor. Yeah, I was disappointed on how they had turned out in the show. Yeah, and I can understand that. The Inquisitors in general are the original Inquisitors in general are pretty rough. They're just kind of there, and they kind of I'm going to use a tourney lightsaber and da 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 da. Most of them are decent. Also, the Mandalorian gives young Luke some more points as well. Oh yeah, no, Luke is that canon. Luke is good, but the Mandalorian almost doesn't make. I know it's technically canon Luke, but that version of Luke is actually what we see in Legends Luke. That's exactly what he was like, except for he had by that point in time built a large academy on the planet Yavin and had taught a lot of Jedi. So I almost view the Mandalorian Luke as Legends Luke. This is what we would have seen in Legends Luke, and 10 times more powerful even. CGI, yeah, exactly. It's good though. It's good CGI. The Book of Boba Fett does an amazing job with it. Like the one in the Mandalorian was good, but the one in Book of Boba Fett is top tier. It's so nice. That's more along the lines of what we would have seen with Legends Luke. He was a brilliant lightsaber fighter, super powerful in the Force. Nobody could stand against him. And It's really episodes 7, 8, and 9 that screwed him over. 8 and 9 really. Not say he's not in 7 really, except for the very, very end. But I agree with you. So the original Inquisitors though, they used the kind of trickery and subterfuge and all this other stuff, and we get to see in episode 4, I think we get to see. Time for Viddy to do a Doctor Who list. That would be awesome. I don't know enough about it, but I would absolutely watch that. So, Viddy, if you decide to do a Doctor Who tier list, I'd love to see it. Who's there? We see the Inquisitor against one of the Inquisitors against Vader. That's a shutout. Not even close. I mean, and we get to see, again, more Vader power, right, for Obi-Wan. We do get to see him literally pull a ship that's about to fly up. We get to see him pull it down and rip the door off. Like, that's pretty darn powerful. It's nice. However, the Grand Inquisitor is great. And the reason the Grand Inquisitor is great is that he is able to look at and identify the fighting style of every individual, and then he can adjust his style to fix it. He's fighting Kanan Jarrus at the very end of season 1 of Rebels, I believe. He's fighting Kanan Jarrus, and Kanan has grown up. Caleb Dune was his original name. He grows up, changes his name to Kanan Jarrus, fights the Grand Inquisitor, and the Grand Inquisitor looks at him as like, I don't know who you are, but I can tell that the person that taught you is Depu Balaba. And she likes this style, so I know she's weak against this style. He changes his style up, and he beats Kanan Jarrus no problem. He was originally apparently a temple guard, so he learned everything. It was really cool to see him just be like, oh, your teacher was this. Oh, no problem. I've got a prescription to take that out. And he did. So he's dangerous. I don't think... Cal may be able to take him, but I don't think Cal's going to do super good against him. And we see the Grand Inquisitor in Obi-Wan, and he doesn't really do anything there. He's kind of disappointingly feigns his own death. But the Inquisitor that kills him, or is supposed to have killed him, is no match for him. There's just no doubt. Rebels season 1. Rebels season 1 would probably be my primary source in that. Tano fights someone one-on-one with a sword fight. Who's that person? That was... she fights the one with the Beskar spear. She's a corrupt governor, or governess of her territory, who's using the Beskar spear. She's not a force wielder. She just... Beskar is one... So in old canon, you had a couple of materials that were lightsaber resistant. One was Darth Bane's parasitic armor, which was these force-sensitive parasites that hardened into, like, diamond. Another one was cortosis, which is a natural mineral that get mined on things like on planets like Apatros. Darth Bane also mined that particular mineral when he was a kid or a young adult known as Dessel. And that was a great episode in an introduction to live action. It was. And Ahsoka Tano is really, really a cool character. She's super cool. I'm excited to see the Ahsoka series. One was cortosis, and in the new canon, Beskar. Beskar is resistant to lightsabers. So it was a purely Beskar steel spear. And it was really cool. But this is my list. I think I'm pretty happy with it. I don't really see anyone that I would move around too much. I mean, I see a couple of what ifs I could do. I talked about the Yoda one that I could do. A couple of these odds and ends that I think I could probably move around. We only had one F tier. That's kind of nice. I guess we didn't see that. So I guess this is. I guess this is Eth Koth actually down here. So Eth Koth, I guess this is Eth Koth. Eth Koth would probably go. I think that's Eth Koth. I can't tell. Is he blue or green? That's green. So he would go probably... if this is Eth Koth, he'd go right here, because this is Agen Kohler. Agen Kohler was his replacement when Eth Koth died. and he wasn't quite as good as Heathcoth. So we'll put Heathcoth here, we'll put Agent Kohler there. Okay, there we go. Now I think it's good. Don't forget to screen capture it. I guess I could just download my image. There we go. Got that downloaded now. Screen cap. But I think we have everyone pretty well. I mean, we know who everyone was. We just didn't know. Like, for example, the only one I've got no review on is Coleman Cadge, which we don't know enough about. I don't know enough about what he did. I think the only thing I know about him is he survived Order 66. But I don't think he did anything impressive, so I can't really be like... I can't say I hate him, because, I mean, if he survived, he survived. But I can't put him up here, because I don't think he did anything noteworthy, so I'm just going to put him there. The only one I had to put in F was Coleman Trebor, who literally got taken out by Jango Fett. 3 shots. In 3 shots. Jedi Master, put on the Council, 3 shots. Jango Fett takes him out in the middle of the Battle of Geonosis. Nobody else got taken out in 3 shots, but Coleman Trebor, 3rd shot. So I think that's where I'm going to put the list. I said, I think I'm moderately happy with that. I went ahead and put Heathcoth up there by Agent Kohler, so that's good. Heathcoth might technically even be better than... You know, oh, well, hold on. Wait. No, that's good. You're really passionate about Star Wars. I know it can be tempting to have a separate channel for Star Wars. I would love to. I wouldn't mind doing that. I mean, I've been a fan of I've been reading Star Wars books and stuff for over 30 years. I've been a big fan of this. Reading the books, going to the theaters to watch the movies, all that. So, it's something that I would love to do, but I don't know if there would be enough viewership, or I don't know if there'd be enough people that would be interested. But sometimes that could put pressure on you to do only Star Wars content. There's enough of it. There's enough of it that I feel like I could go for a while on it, though. I mean, I've got somewhere close to the neighborhood of 350 books read in Star Wars, not including comic books. I've, of course, seen all of the movies. There's additional shows I've seen. Deep lore books that were bought. So, I mean, it's not something that I don't think I could... It's not something that I couldn't do. But I don't know if there is enough interest in it. I mean, if there were, I might, but for now, it's really just knowing that people are enjoying getting to see stuff. I do love Star Wars. Like I said, I'm going on 4 decades of watching. I'm working on my 4th decade of watching all this stuff and enjoying all this stuff. So it's one of those types of things. I really enjoy it, but yeah, if you have anything, I want to say first, I guess first and foremost, thank you to Viddy and to Thumb Bros and to Ash for all coming in and asking questions and giving me your opinions on things and hearing out my opinions, my rants and characterizations and so on and so forth. What was the first Star Wars movie? Yeah, I guess A New Hope is... Yeah, New Hope was the... I watched them in order. I watched 4, 5, and 6, and then 1, 2, and 3. And then... I watched them in the order they came out. And I was a huge fan. I watched episodes 4, 5, and 6 all the time, and then when they finally came on TV, I taped them on a VHS tape, and I watched the heck out of them there. And then they finally started releasing them in, other formats. But I still have... one of the old taped VHSs with one of the original cuts of the original Jabba animated graphic and the original Cantina scene and all that. I watched 4, 5, 6 on VHS. Yeah, so I had the official release VHS, but then before that even happened in the 90s, I taped the television versions and then the theatrical cuts. Yeah, that's awesome. I used to, they would come on, and like I said, I taped them on television in the early 90s. It was really, really cool. That's the thing. I really wish they would have kept the original ones, but they kept adding and adding and adding and adding. So I do have the originals somewhere around here taped, but I do have also the Blu-rays of the new ones and such, which is all right. But I'm a huge fan. I've been doing a lot. I've done a lot of Star Wars, a lot of fun stuff with Star Wars. It's just a fun universe to lose yourself in. found the pacing of the original trilogy to be really good. Yeah, I agree. I think they did a really good job. And of course, episode 4 was great. That was Lucas. Jedi could drag it. It could. And I still stand by that 5 is my favorite, which is Irving Kershner was the director. And then 4, and then 3, and then 6, and then 1, and then 2. And then I'm going to say forget 7, 8, 9. That would be my ranking order from best to worst. So I actually like 3 better than I like 6. There are things about 6 that I like better, but ultimately, I think 3 is a good story. I think 3 is a darn good story. It's got the best music of the entire it's got the best themes and songs of the entire franchise. It's definitely one of the more heart-wrenching. It's one of the more emotionally invested. It's well acted. It's just you know what's going to happen, and yet you still dread and celebrate the conclusion. It's really nice. So, but yeah, a huge thank you to all you guys, Thumb, Viddy, Ash, for showing up, asking questions, having opinions, and sharing them, listening to my opinions, tolerating my whole thing. Again, I'm pretty happy with this list, but if you have additional questions or comments, you go back and you look at something, read something, think of something that you're like, maybe I would change it for this, put it in the comments and I'll respond and tell you what my thoughts on that are if that's something you're interested in. If you do like the Star Wars content also, let me know what you think I should do with it. Should I keep it on this channel? And if so, what should I do with it moving forward? Or should I create another channel? Is there enough interest where people are going to want to watch me talk about random Star Wars stuff for hours on end? Who knows? Just let me know. I really would like to know. The ending to 7 was so good in my opinion, when then Luke just tosses the saber first thing, I was like, is this cheap laugh? Yeah, I agree. It definitely cheapens it, which is why I do like Episode 9's response to the saber toss. Again, Viddy hasn't seen it, so I'm not going to spoil it. Even though that doesn't make up for it, I do really like the fact that they did that. Thanks for the stream, Retro. Oh, thank you. Maybe at some point KOTOR 2 stream? I would love to do a KOTOR 2 stream if you guys are interested in it. I have wanted to play KOTOR 2 ever since I finished KOTOR 1 on here. I don't know KOTOR 2 as well as I know KOTOR 1. I know enough to pass it. I'm not worried about that. It's just, with KOTOR 1 I know it pretty darn well, whereas KOTOR 2 I don't remember everything perfectly, which is actually going to be kind of nice because I will be kind of replaying some of the points of it again. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna jot that down. I know the next retro stream I do, I said would be Rygar, so it will be. If tomorrow is a joint stream with Anna, then it won't be Rygar. We'll probably do something that we both can kind of just to have fun with and loosen up. If it's just me, she decides to do something on her channel, then I'll do Rygar. And then I would be happy to jump into KOTOR 2, if that's something that people are interested in. But I really do. In the comments, if you're thinking about it, and you're like, man, I really think he would be good. And I'm gonna keep this video, obviously, KOTOR 2. But you're like, man, I do like the Star Wars stuff, and I really think it'd be cool if he just did more of it. Let me know, and let me know what kind of things you would like. Oh, do you like tier lists? And if so, do you like different types of tier lists? Do you want to do you think I should make a separate channel? Are you looking for deep lore stories? Those types of things. Are you looking for story recaps, character recaps, special things, about characters that we may not have known, those types of things. So really, any suggestions you have, put them down in the comments if you have them, and I'll respond and be like, man, that sounds great, because your guys' ideas, 9 times out of 10, your ideas are better than anything I come up with, even though I'll try anyway. So, thanks again for keeping Rygar in mind. Hey, no, you suggested it, and I wrote it down, so again, if Anna and I stream tomorrow, we'll probably do something that's just fun and kind of loose for both of us, just so we can both have some fun since Rygar's one player. I do have Rygar in the collection, though, so if it is just my retro stream tomorrow, I will be doing Rygar, as you requested. And then after Rygar, I'll go ahead and start KOTOR 2. I'm excited. KOTOR 2 is a great game. And we'll play that up until probably either I pass it or Jedi Survivor comes out. Under that case, obviously I'm going to start playing Jedi Survivor because I'm stoked about it. So, but anyway, thank you guys so much. I'm going to get. I know it's getting late for Viddy. I guess for you it's not getting super late. It's kind of just in the early afternoon, or getting later afternoon. Thumb, for you, it's probably like almost 2 in the morning. Or no, excuse me, almost 1 in the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys get some late off. I'm going to still hope to be around. Oh yeah, no worries. I'm gonna let you guys get to your stuff. I want to say thank you so very much, and we'll see you here pretty soon. I'm gonna go to. I don't think I actually have a proper outro screen for the Star Wars thing, so if you'll pardon me, I think I'm gonna just use my normal outro screen, but I'll get a cool TIE Fighter display in the middle. Time for me and video to do a co-stream. Heck yeah! So let's do a little cool TIE Fighter. Say thank you guys for watching so much. Like I said, anything that pops to mind, just let me know. But otherwise, we'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow. You guys have a great evening.